I was a 5-year-old beggar. Just because I was wearing an ordinary jade pendant, I attracted a frantic search by the army and 8 women. The citizens were panicked, thinking that a war had broken out. Soon they found out that the entire city's army had come just for me, a little beggar. My name is Xiao Ku, and I am 5 years old. I was an abandoned child. I had a warm home for a short time after being taken in by a homeless uncle. But when I was 4 years old, the uncle passed away, and I became an orphan again. I had no one to rely on, and then I began to live a wandering life. An old beggar felt sorry for me and gave me a bowl. Child, you can only have food to eat by begging. My clothes haven't been washed in many days, which makes me look more like a street beggar. From then on, whenever I saw pretty girls, I would go up to them and ask them for food. The pretty and kind sisters would give me some food when they saw how skinny I was. They always asked me, "Why don't you go to an orphanage or ask the police for help?" But the old beggar once told me that if I asked the police for help, I might end up in an orphanage or be adopted. But I don't want to. I want to find my parents. They must still be looking for me. I touched the jade pendant on my neck. It was a blue jade pendant with 2 words engraved inside, Xiao Ku. The uncle told me that this was the only token that could prove my identity, and I must keep it safe. That day, after breakfast, I sat cross-legged and began my daily practice. Recently, I have been having the same dream. The uncle in the dream kept teaching me many things: calligraphy, chess, musical instruments, painting, and even Chinese medicine and spiritual practice. I used to think that these were just ordinary dreams, but I gradually discovered that every lesson in the dreams seemed to be deeply engraved in my mind. Every time I finish practicing, my body will feel relaxed, as if the fatigue has never existed. So, whenever I have time, I will start practicing and meditating. Day after day, practicing has become a part of my life. When I woke up from meditation, I found that the sun was about to set. My stomach started to protest again. I fished out my belongings from the cracks in the stone, a small black box, which contained the money I had earned from begging. Today, I made some more money, and with this money, I walked towards the city. The pedestrians on the street looked at me differently. Some looked at me with gentle eyes, while others showed disgusted expressions. But I have long been accustomed to these and no longer care about them. I was walking down the street with my head down when suddenly a huge force hit me and I fell to the ground. A woman's sharp voice came to my ears. "Where did you come from, you little bastard? What are you doing standing here, blocking my way?" I was panicked and quickly grabbed the lunch boxes that were scattered on the ground and cleaned them up anxiously. However, what I didn't notice was that the jade pendant on my neck fell at the fat woman's feet when I fell. She looked down and raised a sneer. I stood up quickly, crying as I ran, repeating in my heart, "I'm not a bastard. I have a father and a mother." But the world around me was full of indifference, and no one believed that I had parents. I didn't know why, but I kept running until I came to a park where I couldn't help but squat down and burst into tears. Despair welled up in my heart, and I sobbed quietly, afraid of being seen by passers-by, and even more afraid of their accusations. I touched my neck and was shocked. The jade pendant was gone. It was the only token my parents left me. How could I find my biological parents without it? I turned around anxiously and rushed back to the hamburger shop along the same route. Coincidentally, the fat woman walked into a nearby jewelry store with my jade pendant in her hand. She negotiated with the boss, obviously wanting to sell the jade pendant. The boss looked at the jade pendant and seemed very interested. He offered 30,000 yuan, and the fat woman readily agreed. She said, "I didn't expect a beggar would have such a valuable thing." And then she sold the jade pendant and left with the money. The manager of the jewelry store was putting away the jade pendant when suddenly the master came in and wanted to show him the gold and silver jewelry he had recently collected. When the master saw the jade pendant, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. After taking a closer look, he exclaimed, "Imperial blue jade?" The manager looked puzzled and asked, "Master, how much is this jade worth?" The master looked at him angrily. "This piece of jade is priceless, worth 10 billion. There's only one piece in the world, not to mention it belongs to someone." The manager shuddered and trembled all over. The master immediately picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Brotherly, I have a piece of imperial blue jade here. Please tell me what to do." Li Yishan on the other end of the phone was the president of the jewelry branch of Wong Group. When he heard the jade pendant and the words engraved with Xiao Ku, he suddenly became stiff and emotional. He hurriedly called the head office with a panicked look on his face. At the same time, in the president's office of Wong Group, Wang Siki was confronting Gao Jiajun of Gao Group, and the atmosphere was tense. Xiaolian came in and reported to Wang Siki in a low voice, "President, phone call." Wong Siki said impatiently. Answer it later. Why is Xiaoyan so naughty today? But Xiaoyan whispered helplessly, and Wang Siki's face instantly became serious. She immediately walked out of the meeting room and turned on the computer to check the pictures sent by Li Yishan. When Wang Siki saw the photo of the jade pendant, her eyes suddenly became moist. It's him. After 5 years, I finally found him. She quickly instructed the company to mobilize all forces to start looking for a little boy about 6 years old. She requested the surveillance data at the time, sent a painter to draw a portrait of the boy, issued a search notice, and cooperated with the police and the military to launch a large-scale search. At this moment, I was lying in the bridge hole, my heart full of despair. The jade pendant is lost. How can I find my parents? I closed my eyes and tears welled up again. Suddenly, the voice that appeared in the dream sounded again, and the master seemed to appear in my heart. I told the master what happened today. He smiled calmly and asked me, "Do you really want to find your parents?" I choked up and replied, "Of course I do. I dream about it." He said, "As long as you practice to a certain level, everything can be easily achieved." This sentence gave me a glimmer of hope. He told me that he had to leave for something recently and could not teach me anything new for the time being. But before he left, he placed his hand between my eyebrows, and instantly, a powerful energy surged into my mind, and information came flooding in. My eyes went dark, and I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was already the next day. Walking out of the bridge tunnel, I felt relaxed all over, and my cultivation entered a new stage, the chi refining stage. I touched my stomach, and it started to protest again, so I decided to go to the city to find something to eat. Something seemed wrong with the streets today. Police cars and military vehicles kept passing by, and even the figures of some uncles in military uniforms made me feel a little uneasy. I quietly avoided them, feeling a little scared. Just as I walked into an alley, a black dog suddenly ran over and walked towards me, wagging its tail. I lowered my head and asked, "Don't you have an owner either?" It actually nodded. I smiled and asked, "Then do you want to go with me?" It barked excitedly twice and jumped into my arms. When I was playing with the black dog, I suddenly felt someone staring at me from behind. I turned around and saw two military uncles. They held a photo in their hands and looked at me carefully. They walked up to me and asked with a smile, "Are you Xiaoke?" I nodded, my heart filled with fear. The two military uncles took out a photo and showed it to me. When I looked at it, I realized that it was the jade pendant I had lost. I said excitedly, "This is my stuff. Uncle, can you get back to me?" The soldier smiled and picked up the intercom and said, "Notify all teams and departments to quickly gather at Sunshine Avenue." A few minutes later, police cars, military vehicles, and luxury cars quickly gathered. The entire intersection was blocked, and the police began to set up a cordon. My heartbeat quickened. What's going on? It's like a movie. Why is there such a big scene? I stood in the crowd, my heart pounding, holding my little black tightly. I looked around, my eyes a little confused. Suddenly, a soldier said to me, "Young master, you can't leave. Your family will come to pick you up soon." I looked at him in confusion. But Xiaoke has no family. My grandma passed away a long time ago. I whispered, feeling that this scene did not belong to me. At this moment, the roar of several high-end sports cars came. In the motorcade, the Cullinan and Maserati motorcade passed through the street with great momentum. The soldiers hurried to greet them, opened the car door, and respectfully called out, "Miss Wong." I watched curiously, my heart beating faster. A woman in a black uniform came out of the car. She was tall and walked gracefully. She exuded a temperament that could not be ignored, as if everyone's eyes were focused on her. What a beautiful sister, I thought quietly, my heart full of awe and curiosity. When she approached me, I noticed a kind of gentle concern in her eyes. She squatted down, and there seemed to be a little mist in her eyes. "Xiaoke, be good, come here," she said softly. At that time, my heart was suddenly touched. Although I had never seen her, I felt that every word she said was like the deepest love for me. I subconsciously took a few steps back. "I don't know you, sister," I said, not believing every word she said. She smiled slightly, gently took out a jade pendant, and put it around my neck. "This jade pendant is a gift prepared by your parents for you. Wang Xiaoke, you are a younger brother." Her voice was slightly trembling. The moment I saw the jade pendant, my heart was shaken, and all my doubts became reality in an instant. Am I really Wang Xiaoke? I choked, not knowing what to say. The sister in front of me was gentle and resolute, and she didn't look like someone who would dislike me. Wang Siki stood up and took my hand with a warm smile on her face. "Come on, brother. I'll take you somewhere," she said. Although I was a little nervous, I also felt an unprecedented sense of relief. When I got to the car, I looked at the luxurious car and felt a little scared. "This car is so expensive. What if it gets dirty?" I asked in a low voice. Wong Siki gently took my hand and said with a smile, "Don't be afraid, brother. Sister will not dislike you. You are my baby." As the motorcade drove out, people on the street looked at us with surprise in their eyes. This Maserati actually belongs to the president of the Wong family. The street discussions reached my ears, but I was only thinking about the place my sister took me to. Inside the car, I felt a little awkward, my heart full of questions and excitement. Wong Siki smiled and asked, "Brother, can you tell me how you lived before?" I slowly let down my guard and began to tell about my life as a wanderer with my grandmother. Although my grandmother didn't have enough to eat, she still left her food for me until I became what I am now. As soon as I said this, the depression in my heart seemed to be released, and the memories became less heavy. Soon, we arrived at the clothing store. Wong Siki asked to choose some clothes for me. I was a little embarrassed, dirty, and looking at those shiny clothes, I suddenly felt uneasy. "Sister, I only need one set," I whispered. Wong Siki rubbed my head lovingly. "You know, brother, sister could buy 10,000 sets of clothes," she said, and swiped the card to pay. After leaving the clothing store, we went to the bath city. Wong Siki asked the bodyguard to take a good bath and comb my hair. I never thought that I would have such a warm day. After taking a bath, my appearance was completely changed, with fair skin and neat clothes. I looked at myself in the mirror and couldn't believe it. "Wow, what a change. The young master is so handsome now," the bodyguards said with a smile. At this moment, Wong Siki stood up and prepared to continue working. She smiled warmly at the camera, and the senior executives in the meeting were stunned. Everyone had never seen such a gentle side of President Wong. "Brother, come sit here with me." Wong Siki called me softly. I walked over nervously, smelling the faint floral scent on her body and feeling her warm care, which was completely different from those cold sisters. Her care made me feel like I had finally found a real home. While we were talking, Xiaoyan walked into the room holding a little white dog, and the dog struggled and jumped towards me. She smiled and said, "Mr. Wong, Xiaohei has been washed." I was stunned for a moment. Why is this little white dog called Xiaohei? The name Xiaohei sounds really special. The dog jumped to my feet and licked my shoes. I smiled. Wong Siki asked curiously, "Do you want to change the name? How about calling it Xiaobai?" I picked up Xiaohei and shook my head. "I like Xiaohei." She smiled helplessly and took a few photos for me. Looking at the photos of myself on the phone, I felt like a child and was very happy. The photo was sent to the sisters group, and everyone was discussing how to take care of me. Some said they would raise me to be plump and white, and some said they would take me home to take care of me. Hearing this, my heart was warmed, and I finally knew that I had so many sisters. It turned out that the family love I had always longed for was right in front of me. "Brother, what do you want to eat?" Wong Siki asked me. I thought for a moment and said, "Fried chicken wings, fried chicken legs, and cola." She tapped my forehead and said, "No, these are junk food." Although I felt a little wronged, her concern filled my heart with warmth. In the end, she agreed to let me eat it only once, and I happily jumped up while holding Xiaohei. Soon after, we arrived at Wallace's restaurant, where the table was filled with fried chicken, hamburgers, and Coke. I looked at the empty restaurant and asked curiously, "Sister, why is no one coming?" Xiaoyan smiled and told me, "Mr. Wong has reserved the restaurant, and no one dares to come." I ate voraciously, feeling a satisfaction I had never felt before. After eating, Wong Siki told me that we were going to a place. The car drove into a luxurious manor. I saw green trees all around and couldn't believe my eyes. "Is this our home, sister?" I asked in surprise. She smiled gently and took my hand. "Yes, brother, this is our home. The whole manor is ours." At this moment, I finally understood that my sister was the rich woman, and I also had a real home. In the villa, Aunt Lon greeted Wong Siki. "Miss, you are back. I will prepare lunch right away." Wong Siki smiled and said, "Aunt Lon, we have already eaten. Let's clean up the room first." Aunt Lon turned around excitedly to make arrangements. She has always been a loyal housekeeper of the Wong family. Today, she heard that the young master had returned safely, and she was very excited. Wong Siki squatted down, held up Xiaoku's face, and said softly, "Sister has to go to work. Brother can play at home first." She called a young maid and took me downstairs. I followed the maid, and listened to her introduction of the layout of the house. The facilities in the house were all available. Xiaohei in my arms also lay quietly and seemed to have adapted to the new environment. Walking into the living room, I stopped and saw a huge TV. It was 4 or 5 times bigger than any TV I had ever seen, and I estimated it must be worth tens of thousands. The maid asked tentatively, "Young master, do you want to watch TV?" I nodded, sat down, and started watching the cartoon Happy Wolf and Big Big Sheep. While watching, I ate the fruit brought by the maid, and I felt extremely satisfied. Suddenly, there was a dog barking outside the house. Xiaohei took the opportunity to slip out, rolled a few times in the yard, and rushed to the outskirts of the manor. The guard caught it and angrily scolded, "How did this little stray dog get in?" I didn't know what happened until I saw Aunt Lon come forward and take Xiaohei back from the man's hands. "This is the young master's dog. You can't take it away," Aunt Lon said sternly. The man immediately realized that he had made a mistake and hurriedly bowed his head to admit his mistake. Aunt Lon gently picked up Xiaohei and patted his head gently. "Don't make the young master angry again in the future." A few hours later, I was tired of watching TV, and Auntie Lon came into the room with Xiaohei in her arms. "The room is ready. Come with me," she said gently. I followed her upstairs and saw an exquisite children's room, full of toys and a cartoon-patterned quilt on the bed. Wow, what a great room. I jumped onto the bed happily, feeling that it was much more comfortable than my bed in the bridge hole. Aunt Lon smiled and asked me if I was satisfied. "Yes," I answered happily. Then I felt a little sleepy, so I lay down on the bed and prepared to rest. "Have a good rest, young master," Aunt Lon said and gently closed the door. After I lay down, there was a voice lingering in my head. After entering the chi refining stage, I could feel a strange power. Closing my eyes, I entered the sea of consciousness, which was filled with balls of light and a mysterious ring. The master's voice echoed in the space. "Practice well and don't let me down." I began to merge with the balls of light, and my knowledge and skills grew rapidly. I felt as if I had become more powerful and could do more. When I opened my eyes, I found that I was wearing the mysterious ring on my hand. The space of the ring was as big as a basketball court. There were countless precious secrets hidden in it, which allowed me to master the skills of medicine, forging, chess, calligraphy, and painting in an instant. I knew that from this moment on, the strongest boy in the world was me, Xiao Ke. After several hours of practice, I felt that my energy and spirit had returned to their peak. I jumped off the bed and sat down at the study table. I calmed down, picked up a pen and paper, and wrote a string of words. Although I had never been to school, in the sea of consciousness, my master used a secret method to put all the knowledge of fonts into my head. After I finished writing, I started to worry. The speed of cultivation is too slow. I estimate that it will take about 15 days to reach the middle stage of chi refining. I remember that taking pills can speed up the cultivation, so I wrote down the prescription of chi refining pill. The herbs are all in my storage ring, but I need a furnace to refine the pills. I have never even heard of this thing, let alone find it. Just when I was worried, Auntie Lon knocked on the door and called me to have dinner. I followed Auntie Lon downstairs and saw that my 7th sister Wong Siki was already sitting at the dining table. She was busy with company affairs and looked tired. When she saw me coming downstairs, she suddenly became energetic and pulled me to sit next to her. There were more than a dozen dishes on the table, including braised spare ribs and sweet and sour carp. I was stunned and thought to myself, is Sister Chi going to feed me like a pig? I told Sister Chi that I couldn't finish it. She smiled and gave me a piece of fish, saying that someone would clean up the leftovers and it wouldn't be wasted. I was relieved and ate heartily, and Sister Chi kept looking at me lovingly. 7th sister told me that I would be 6 years old in 3 months. I had never celebrated my birthday before and didn't know what to do on my birthday. 7th sister said that on my birthday, I should eat cake, wear new clothes, and make wishes. The cake was soft and sweet, just like a cloud. After dinner, 7th sister secretly took a photo of me and sent it to the group. Everyone was talking about going home. Later, I learned that my celebrity sister Wong Shinru was at a fan meeting at the Kyoto International Stadium that day because I gave up my cooperation with Hollywood. And my sister Wong Wenya in Country M also decided to return to China and become a professor at Kyoto University. When I got home, I took my 7th sister to see Xiaohei. The doghouse that Auntie Lon prepared for him was very comfortable. When my 7th sister went to take a bath, I took the recipe to the kitchen to find a substitute for the alchemy furnace. I learned how to use the rice cooker from Auntie Lon, and when she wasn't paying attention, I sneaked back and planned to use the rice cooker to make the elixir. I stood on the bench, put all the herbs into the rice cooker, and then released my aura to feel their changes. Each herb has different properties and melting points, so it is very difficult to blend them. As a result, 15 minutes later, there was a loud noise from the kitchen, and the rice cooker exploded. Seventh sister and Aunt Lon came over, and seeing me covered in dust, I was so embarrassed that I could only say, "Seventh sister, Aunt Lon." The rice cooker exploded. The rice cooker exploded? Sister Chi and Aunt Lon saw the rice cooker exploded, and the lid flew onto the shelf. Sister Chi's mouth twitched, and she said seriously, "The rice cooker is very dangerous. Don't touch it." I was afraid of exposing my cultivation, so I hurriedly said that I wanted to cook for her, and she felt warmed after hearing that. After the farce was over, I took a shower and returned to my room. I took out 4 pills from my storage ring, muttering that the number was too small. But I didn't realize that it was already amazing that I could make pills at the age of 6 without an alchemy furnace. I took 1 pill and started practicing. After one night, the spiritual energy in my body accumulated by 20%. I estimated that I could break through to the middle stage of chi refining in a week. The next morning, Annie Lon called me to get up and wash up, and then I had breakfast with Sister Chi. She was wearing a black casual suit, looking cool and domineering, and said she would take me to the company. When we arrived at Wong's group, I was curious whether the building belonged to her, and she joked that I was the boss. Sister Chi asked her secretary Xiaolian to give me an ID card, buy me a mobile phone and clothes, and also told me to buy a cake. Xiaolian drove me out to buy milk tea and snacks first. I ate the cake I'd been dreaming about, and the sweet taste made me super satisfied. Then we went to the household registration office. There were a lot of people queuing up, but the administrator welcomed us directly into the room. The people in the queue were dissatisfied, but the administrator called us distinguished guests, and they quieted down. After getting the ID card, those people looked at me unkindly. Xiaolian said they thought I was cute and wanted to abduct me, so I quickly held her hand tightly. Later, the administrator knew that someone had mocked us, so he drove those 2 people out directly. Afterwards, we went to the Apple flagship store. The saleswoman took out the Apple 5S for introduction, and Xiaolian asked her to get the latest model. After selection, I chose the Apple 14 Pro. After paying by credit card, the saleswoman excitedly gave me a little bear toy. On the streets of Tianshui District, a black Mercedes-Benz E300 drove steadily. Although autumn is approaching, the midday heat is still a bit unbearable. In the car, Xiaolian was concentrating on driving, while I was curiously fiddling with my newly bought mobile phone. "Sister Xiaolian, what can a mobile phone do?" I asked while stroking the screen. I usually see many people on the street playing with their mobile phones, and some people even tap the screen frantically. I really can't figure out what's fun about it. The female salesperson only taught me how to turn on the phone and take photos. Before I could ask about many other functions, Sister Xiaolian pulled me away. I turned on the camera, and the screen was like a mirror. When I opened my mouth, it opened its mouth too, and with a click, a photo was taken. Xiaolian took the time to tell me that the phone can be used to watch TV, send messages, and call and video chat with my sister. There were so many functions that I was confused and only remembered that it could be used to contact my sister. But I didn't know how to make a phone call, and Sister Xiaolian was driving and couldn't teach me. I felt a little depressed and leaned my little head against the car window to look at the scenery. Xiaolian saw that I was bored and it was time for dinner, so she thought about the nearby restaurants. We crossed a few streets and stopped at Heaven on Earth. When I got off the car, I looked up and saw that it was a big restaurant. My stomach started to growl. "Master, you must be hungry. Let's go in." Okay. As soon as we entered the restaurant, the waiter came to greet us. Xiaolian said she wanted to book a private room on the 3rd floor, but the male waiter looked embarrassed and said that the 3rd floor was reserved. Xiaolian said to open the 2nd floor, but the other waiter said it was reserved. Xiaolian was a little annoyed. There were so many private rooms on the 1st floor. How could they all be booked? She didn't want me to eat in the hall, as it would be embarrassing for the Wong family. So she said coldly, "Send your manager over." My patience is limited. The waiter hurried to find the manager, and soon, a middle-aged man with a big belly and greasy face came. When the manager saw that it was Xiaolian, his heart tightened. After all, who doesn't know Mr. Wong's favorite? After listening to the waiter, the manager slammed the table, startling the short waiter, and scolded him. "Asshole, do you know who this is? You dare to stop a distinguished guest. Don't you want to work anymore? Why don't you open a private room for the lady?" The short waiter felt wronged. It was the manager who said that the second and third floors were reserved, and now it was all his fault. The manager said a few polite words and slipped away. He didn't want to cause trouble. We took the elevator to the third floor, box 301. The waiter handed me the menu, and Xiaolian asked me to order whatever I wanted. I chose a plate of cumin lamb, and Xiaolian selected some signature dishes. I took out my phone and said in distress, "Sister Xiaolian, please teach me how to use this phone." The male waiter saw me banging and was very nervous. That was a Fruit 14 Pro, which was equivalent to his 2-month salary. "Don't drop it." After the waiter left, Xiaolian came over and patiently taught me. She had already used my ID card to apply for a SIM card and inserted it into the phone. When the food was served, I had learned the basics of using the phone. Xiaolian helped me register for WeChat, and I added her and my seventh sister, Wong first. My seventh sister received a friend request in the president's office and agreed. Xiaolian continued to teach me how to use WeChat, and I quickly understood it. I found my seventh sister and clicked on a video call. Beep, beep, beep. The video was connected, and I looked at the sister on the phone with a smile. Sister 7 asked a lot of questions, such as whether she liked the phone and whether she had eaten lunch. We were having a great chat. Suddenly, with a bang, the door of the box was pushed open and a group of people walked in. Huh? Why are there people here? Yes, didn't Guiqiang book the whole place? Hello, we have booked this place. Please leave. Several middle-aged men and women talked at once. A middle-aged man with a muscular build, wearing a blue suit and looking fierce, came through the crowd. His name was Lu Guiqiang. After everyone told him the situation, he looked at us and told us to go downstairs to eat in a very tough tone. Xiaolian simply ignored him and said after a while, "There's so many boxes on the third floor, it's not too much for us to take one. If there are not enough seats, you can go to the lobby on the first floor." Lu Guiqiang became angry and threatened that he was the director of the Hailong group and asked us to think about the consequences of angering him. He also asked us to go down quickly because today was his daughter's graduation banquet, and he didn't want to lose face in front of his relatives and juniors. Xiaolian looked up and looked at him and said sarcastically, "Hailong group? It seems very powerful, and it can cover the sky with one hand in Shanghai." Before I hung up the phone, Sister Chi heard all clearly. Her pretty face turned cold in an instant, and she clenched the phone. Sister Chi asked me to pass the phone to Lu Guiqiang, saying that she knew him and wanted to chat with him. Although I didn't like this ugly uncle, I still handed the phone over obediently. Xiaolian didn't stop me, probably because she also wanted to watch the fun. Lu Guiqiang subconsciously took the phone, and when he looked at the screen, he froze. On the screen, seventh sister stared at him coldly, and the coldness seemed to be transmitted through the phone. "Wong, Mr. Wong, hello. How are you doing lately?" Lu Guiqiang panicked. Facing the eldest daughter of the Wong family, he was incoherent. Seventh sister asked him if he was Zhao Mo's man from the Hailong group. He quickly admitted it and kept apologizing, saying that he was confused and would take people away immediately. He would pay for this table. Seventh sister hung up the phone, and Lu Guiqiang breathed a sigh of relief. His shirt was soaked with cold sweat. He smiled stiffly and returned the phone to me. Xiaolian sneered. "No need." Lu Guiqiang left the box with a group of people in disgrace. Outside the box, everyone looked at Lu Guiqiang with confusion. "Brother Guiqiang, who was on the phone just now? Why did they just leave like that?" "Yes, Uncle Chang, I think we should call the manager to kick them out." Upon hearing this, Lu Guiqiang's face turned green with anger. He slapped the younger generation in the face and cursed. "Do you know who they are? Have you heard of the Wong family of the Magic City? I'm lucky enough to have walked out of this safely. You kid are still shouting about your own safety. Do you want to die?" Everyone was stunned with shock. The words, "Wong family of the Magic City," carried too much weight. Lu Guiqiang looked at the messed-up entrance banquet and gloomily asked everyone to go downstairs. He didn't dare to stay for another minute. Everyone went downstairs in disgrace, and the fat manager who was slacking off just happened to come to the hall. When the manager saw Lu Guiqiang, he immediately greeted him with a smile. "Hey, Mr. Lu, why didn't you tell me in advance when you were coming?" Lu Guiqiang was already furious, and when he saw the manager, he became even more furious and yelled, "Manager Du, why didn't you tell me in advance that President Wong's people were coming to my box? My career was almost ruined because of this hum." After that, he snorted coldly, took everyone away, leaving behind a lot of empty boxes. Manager Du was completely stunned. He was just chatting enthusiastically with a new waiter and accidentally forgot about this matter. Now this big order was gone, and he didn't know how to explain to his boss. In the private room, Xiaolian and I ate our fill, and I ate all the cumin lamb. After we were satisfied, Xiaolian took me downstairs to pay the bill. After paying the bill, I saw that the manager looked not very well. After careful observation, I said to him in a baby voice, "Uncle, there's something wrong with your kidneys. Go to the hospital for a checkup when you have time." Manager Du smiled and agreed, probably thinking I was just kidding. In fact, I saw that his eyebrows were blue, his chi was weak, and his kidneys were blocked. He probably had a malignant tumor. After we left, Manager Du went to vent his anger on the waiter. Outside the store, I got in the car, wondering where I could get an alchemy furnace. Using an electric rice cooker to make alchemy would make too much noise and be difficult to control. If my sister found out, it would be troublesome. I turned my head to look at Sister Xiaolian, who was driving, and suddenly I had an idea. I gently tugged at the corner of her clothes and called out, "Sister Xiaolian." Then I said, "I want to see the alchemy furnace. Where can I find the alchemy furnace?" Xiaolian was confused by my question. I guess she was thinking that there's no such thing on the market. So she said, "The alchemy furnace is useless. It's just a decoration." "Master, why are you looking at that? The alchemy furnace can't make delicious food." I blinked my big eyes and acted pitifully. "I just want to see it. Can you take me to see it, Sister Xiaolian?" Seeing me like this, Xiaolian couldn't bear to refuse. So she said, "Then let's go and see it after we buy clothes, okay?" When I heard it, I immediately became energetic. "Okay, Sister Xiaolian is the best." The car started, Xiaolian shifted to D gear, and drove smoothly into the lane. I opened the video software and started watching Pleasant Wolf and Big Big Sheep. I was watching it with great interest when I received a WeChat message from Sister Chi. I clicked it and saw that it was a transfer information. I counted 5 zeros, 100,000 yuan. Sister Chi said that this was my pocket money and asked Sister Xiaolian to teach me how to spend it. She also said that I should tell her what I want to buy and what I want to eat. I quickly replied, "Thank you, sister," and sent a giggle emoticon. Sister Chi asked me if I could type. How could I type at such a young age? I thought to myself, this is not good. I can't say that it was my master who taught me. I quickly put the blame on Sister Xiaolian, saying that I asked Sister Xiaolian to send it. I closed WeChat and continued watching cartoons. I laughed so hard when I saw Xilang Lang being hit by my wife with a pot. After a while, we arrived at Zhenghong Shopping Center. This mall is 8 stories high, with more than 50 stores on each floor. I was stunned as soon as I entered, and my eyes were full of stars. Xiaolian took my hand and took the elevator to the 5th floor and went straight to the FD brand chain store. As soon as we entered the store, Xiaolian took out a blue card at the front desk. The clerk saw that it was a Diamond VIP and quickly called. In less than a minute, the supervisor came and respectfully took us to choose clothes. After a while, Xiaolian took me out of the store, followed by 2 shop assistants carrying several large bags of clothes. When we got back to the car, the shop assistants put the clothes in the trunk and left. I looked at Sister Xiaolian eagerly. She sighed helplessly, rubbed my face, and said, Okay, I'll take you to see the alchemy furnace." She had seen the alchemy furnace in the Xianyun dojo in the suburbs before. Although she thought it was nothing to see, she couldn't resist me. Before leaving, Xiaolian told me to take a nap because the journey was long and it would be boring. I said I wouldn't sleep, but I fell asleep halfway through the journey, which made Xiaolian laugh. It takes more than half an hour to drive from the city to the suburbs, but it took almost an hour to get to Xianyun dojo. Xiaolian pinched my ear and told me to get up. "Young master, get up, the alchemy furnace is here." I was sleepy and smacked my lips. After I was completely awake, Xiaolian and I got out of the car and walked into the dojo. Today is the weekend, and there are still many people in the Taoist temple. Xianyun Taoist temple is not big, only about 200 square meters. Legend has it that Taoist master Xianyun passed away here, and his disciples built this Taoist temple. However, the Taoist temple is not famous, and it has declined from generation to generation. Now only the last Taoist master lives here. I looked around the gym, but didn't see the alchemy furnace, but I saw 2 familiar faces. I immediately ran over and shouted, "Sister Shanda, brother!" Lin Xiaoxiao and Yixing turned around, and Lin Xiaoxiao looked at me curiously, probably not recognizing me. I smiled and said, "I'm Xiao Ku. Don't you remember me, sister?" Lin Xiaoxiao slapped her head and said, "Oh, Xiao Ku, why are you here? You've changed so much." Indeed, I was skinny and dirty a few days ago, but now my skin is white, I wear trendy clothes, and I'm a little fatter. I'm like a different person. Lin Xiaoxiao said she had been looking for me for a long time and asked me where I had been. I stuck out my tongue playfully and told her that I'd found my sister and was back home. When Lin Xiaoxiao saw Xiaolian, she also greeted her politely. After chatting for a while, they were about to leave. It turned out that Lin Xiaoxiao's mother had stomach cancer, and they came to pray for blessings. Before leaving, I took out my phone to add Sister Xiaoxiao as a friend. When they saw my new phone, they were all surprised. I guess they thought my family was well off and spoiled me. After adding friends, they left. I always felt that Sister Xiaoxiao was worried, but I didn't think much about it. Business was more important. I walked to Sister Xiaolian, but I didn't see the alchemy furnace yet. Xiaolian led me to the main hall, and as soon as I entered the main hall, I saw the alchemy furnace in the corner. The alchemy furnace was yellow and black, more than 1 meter high, and looked quite heavy. In the middle of the hall, an old Taoist with shifty eyes sat cross-legged. He was the master of the Taoist temple and also the last Taoist priest. The old Taoist closed his eyes as if he was asleep. I studied the alchemy furnace and found that the quality of this furnace was not yet yellow level, but it was enough for me now. Just as I was thinking, the old Taoist suddenly said, "My friend, you came to my gym to steal my alchemy furnace, didn't you?" I really had this idea in my mind. Seeing that the old Taoist was so weak, why not just knock him out and take away the alchemy furnace? Of course, this was just a fleeting evil thought. Xiaolian came to me and asked, "See, this is the alchemy furnace, but it's useless." I nodded and then said, "Sister Xiaolian, can you move this alchemy furnace? I like it so much." As I said that, I hugged the alchemy furnace tightly and refused to let go, as if I would not leave unless you took it away. Xiaolian helplessly held her forehead. Other children would not let go unless they bought toys, but I would not leave unless you took the alchemy furnace away. Xiaolian knew that this was something from the Taoist temple, so it was not easy to take it directly. But she could not do anything to me, so she walked towards the Taoist priest and said, "Hello, Taoist priest, do you think this alchemy furnace is for sale? Please name a price." Of course, we will never let your temple suffer a loss, and the price is negotiable. In the hall, the old Taoist said nothing, but just held up a finger. Xiaolian asked doubtfully, 100,000? What do you think? The old Taoist, who originally wanted to sell it for 10,000 yuan, his eyes lit up instantly when he heard this. After the Taoist temple fell into decline, many things were sold by him. This alchemy furnace was useless and covered with dust. The old Taoist pretended to be profound and said, "I think you have a connection with the master's alchemy furnace. Take it for 100,000 yuan. It can be regarded as a good deed for the Taoist temple." I immediately noticed the sly smile in his eyes, thinking that this was blackmail, and quickly said, "Sister Xiaolian, this is too expensive, I don't want it." I pretended to be very sorry and loosened my grip on the alchemy furnace. Xiaolian also saw that the Taoist was cunning, and when she saw that I didn't want to buy it, she prepared to take me away. The old Taoist was anxious now. How could he let the duck fly away? He stood up and shouted, "Wait a minute. I see that the donor has a good relationship with the furnace, so the price is not a problem and can be negotiated." His sneaky and anxious look was really annoying. I turned around and asked, "Can you sell it for 3,000 yuan?" The old Taoist was stunned. He had just offered 100,000 yuan, but now it has become 3,000 yuan. The gap is too big. Then we started a fierce bargaining. The old Taoist asked for 50,000 and I said 4,000. He asked for 40,000 and I said 5,000 and threatened to leave if he didn't sell it. Finally, the old Taoist was so angry that he blew his beard and glared, gritted his teeth, and said, 8,008. It's my bad luck. You can take it." Xiaolian was stunned, watching from the side. She didn't expect that I would bargain like an Andy in the vegetable market. After paying, Xiaolian asked someone to move the alchemy furnace back to Wong's manor. After that, we returned to Wong's group and took the elevator to the president's office on the top floor. Xiaolian finally completed her mission. Wang Siki was in a meeting downstairs, and I didn't want to disturb her. Sister Xiaolian was busy with something else, so she told me not to run around and went downstairs. The CEO's office was empty, and I didn't know what to do. I watched a video on my phone for a while, and then started wandering around the room. I saw a brush and rice paper on the cabinet. I was bored, so I want to play with the brush and write. The cabinet was 2 meters high, and I was only 1.1 meters tall now. However, after entering the early stage of chi refining, my physical fitness far exceeded that of an ordinary adult. I jumped lightly and got the brush and rice paper. There was ink on the table. I jumped onto the chair, spread out the rice paper, and dipped it in ink. What should I write? I recalled the poems my master taught me and said to myself, "I have it. I'll write a poem." Holding the brush, my demeanor suddenly changed, and my eyes lit up. I started writing, wrote, and finished writing in less than 3 minutes. And a poem was finished. This body has tasted all the sorrows and joys, and I miss you all leaning on me in the middle of the night. The vast mountains are full of energy, and the vast white clouds cover the returning dust. The characters were written so beautifully, with magnificent poetry, and the strokes and momentum were perfect, revealing vicissitudes of life. I put this one aside, took out another piece of rice paper, and wrote down quickly. All the green ants are blooming. I asked where the sword fairy is at the bottom of the pond. The previous one was sad, but this one was much more heroic. Every stroke was like a sealed sword, which could shock people even without being unsheathed. I was very satisfied and wanted to put it away, but then I changed my mind and posted the two works on the walls on both sides, thinking that my sister would definitely like it. After all, my master praised my good calligraphy. After waiting for a long time, I fell asleep on the sofa. Wong Siki had just finished her meeting and was about to leave work. She pushed open the door of the president's office and saw me sleeping soundly. She walked quietly to the desk to put away the meeting records. Only then did she notice the rice paper and brush on the desk. She smiled and muttered, "Xiao Yin is really a fool." She dared to give the brush to a child to play with. After she had sorted out the clutter, she noticed the rice paper on the wall and looked at the poem on it in shock. The vast white clouds cover the returning dust. She refused to believe that I wrote it. She liked calligraphy, so she put these in her office. But the more she understood, the more she could see the strokes in the words. This was the only masterpiece she had seen. She looked at another one and read softly. The green ants are all gone, and the flowers are gradually blooming. I wonder where the sword fairy is at the bottom of the pond. After reading it several times in a row, he called it a masterpiece and said that the poem was like a sword, with the writing style and sword force being restrained yet sharp, and it would definitely fetch a sky-high price at an auction. She gently woke me up and asked with a smile who wrote the calligraphy. I rubbed my eyes and said naturally that I wrote it myself. She scratched my nose and didn't believe it at all. She didn't ask any more questions and planned to ask Xiaolian tomorrow. After get off work, Wong Siki took me home. In the Wong family manor, Aunt Lan was worried about the alchemy furnace. This thing was big, heavy, and ugly, and it didn't fit anywhere. Hearing the sound of the sports car, everyone knew that the young lady had returned and hurried to open the door. Wong Siki got out of the car and saw everyone's curious eyes, so she asked, "What's wrong, Aunt Lan?" Aunt Lan asked, "Miss, what do you think you should put this big incense burner you bought? I don't think there is anywhere to put it." Incense burner? Wong Siki was confused. She had never bought an incense burner before. She followed everyone's gaze and finally understood what was going on. She pulled me to the alchemy furnace to take a look. She remembered that Xiaolian said, "I bought an alchemy furnace at Xianyan Dojo." She looked down at me and realized that it was indeed my doing. "Little brother, why did you think of buying an alchemy furnace? Are you making alchemy here like lousy?" My heart tightened, wondering if my sister would find out that I was really going to make alchemy. I smiled awkwardly and said, "No, I think this thing looks nice and I want to buy it to play with." I breathed a sigh of relief when no one asked any more questions. Wong Siki ordered the male servant to carry the alchemy furnace to the open space. I asked her to put it in my room. Although she didn't understand, she still did it. The matter was solved, and the stone in my heart fell to the ground. With the alchemy furnace, I can refine pills. I also want to refine the anti-aging pill to share with my sisters. This anti-aging pill can make people stay young forever. Which woman doesn't want it? I ate dinner very quickly today. Wong Siki could see that I was anxious, but she didn't ask any more questions. After dinner and a shower, I locked the door and looked at the alchemy furnace in the corner. I smiled and realized that I could finally make the elixir properly. This yellow and black alchemy furnace looks very solid. It took 5 people a lot of effort to move it. I estimated that it weighed more than 300 kilograms. I walked up to it, reached out and touched it, and said with a smile, "My dear, let's start working today." The alchemy furnace is now placed flat in the corner, but if I really want to make an elixir, I can't put it here. My room is about 40 square meters, so it's spacious enough to put a 1 meter long and wide alchemy furnace. I stretched out my 2 little hands, grabbed the legs of the alchemy furnace, gritted my teeth, and lifted it up. I was so small, but I was holding something much bigger than me. It was like a king lifting a tripod. I was shocked. Although it was quite hard for me to lift more than 300 pounds, I still moved it to the center of the room, put it down gently, and breathed a sigh of relief. After resting for a while by the bed, I was ready to make the elixir. I sat cross-legged in front of the elixir furnace and took out the herbs for making the chi-absorbing elixir from the storage ring. After everything was ready, I began to use my spiritual energy to draw patterns under the elixir furnace. This is a formation called the fire control formation. My teacher has instilled formation knowledge into my memory. As long as you use spiritual energy to outline it and activate it, you can generate an endless supply of fire in the formation, and it will only burn the alchemy furnace and will not spread. Unexpectedly, after the first sketch, the pattern flashed and then disappeared when I activated the spiritual energy. What happened? The formation failed. I knocked my head in distress and decided to try again. As a result, the second and third times failed. I was sweating. This inferior fire control formation was really difficult to handle. The last time, I carefully sketched each stroke, and after completing it, I controlled the spiritual energy again to activate the formation. Boom! A raging fire appeared out of thin air under the alchemy furnace. It succeeded. I was so excited. Then I opened the furnace, poured the herbs into it in order, and then concentrated on feeling the changes in the herbs in the furnace. The temperature of the furnace rose rapidly, and the Chinese herbs were decomposed by high temperature, and the impurities were removed, leaving only the essence. You can't be impatient when refining the elixir. I didn't dare to be distracted at all. I used my spiritual power to wrap the essence of the herbs and expel the impurities. The temperature in the furnace was still rising, and the essence slowly solidified. It was the key step of condensing the elixir. Although I was so tired that sweat broke out on my forehead and my spiritual energy was almost exhausted, my eyes were firm. Finally, the high temperature reached the critical value, and I quickly compressed the essence of the elixir together. Bang! A muffled sound came from the alchemy furnace, and I quickly put away the fire control array, collapsed on the floor in exhaustion, and gasped for breath. This time, I almost fainted from refining the elixir, mainly because the spiritual energy was consumed too quickly and the spiritual energy stored in the dantian was too little. I couldn't help but think that if I reached the middle stage of refining the chi, it would not be so strenuous. Last time I used a rice cooker to refine the elixir, I didn't pay much attention to the quality, so it wasn't so hard. This time I was much more serious, and the quality should be much better. After a short break, I stood up and opened the furnace, counting 1, 2, 3, 10. I actually refined 10 round pills. I remember my master said that within 100 furnaces, an alchemist who can refine more than 7 pills at a time is considered a genius. Then I should be considered a genius. I praised myself happily. In fact, if you can make 8 pills in one furnace, you are already a genius. If I can make 10 pills in one furnace, I am even more of a genius. These 10 pills are rounder than the last time, and the color is brighter, and the quality is obviously better. I tiredly put away the pills, simply cleaned up the alchemy furnace, and lay down on the bed. After a short rest, I swallowed a chi-absorbing pill and started practicing. When I opened my eyes again, it was already the next day. I stretched my body. I felt super refreshed after practicing all night. Maybe because I was exhausted from refining the elixir yesterday, my body became more resilient after practicing. I got up early to wash up without waiting for Aunt Lana to call me. I went downstairs and saw Wong Siki drinking tea. When she saw me coming down so early, she couldn't help but praise me. Little brother is so diligent, getting up so early, so good. She also pinched my cheeks. Seven's sister, don't pinch Xiaoku's face. I said pitifully, making her giggle. After breakfast, I didn't go to the company with my sister today. I wanted to quickly cultivate to the middle stage of chi refining so that I could refine the youth pill. Both the chi refining pill and the youth pill are first-grade pills, but the youth pill is more difficult to refine and is a high-level pill among the first-grade pills. Wong Siki gave Aunt Lon instructions and left in the car. I spent the whole morning running in the manor. At first, Aunt Lon followed me, afraid that I would fall, but later she found that I was so fast that I could run around the manor without even taking a breath. You know, one lap of the manor is almost 2 kilometers, and an adult would have to breathe after running a lap. Finally, Aunt Lon asked Xiao Lu, who was sweeping the floor, to run with me. Half an hour later, Xiao Lu fell on the road exhausted, looking at my running back. I guess he was muttering in his heart. Family members who understand that I, a sweeper, have to run with a child, and the key is that I can't run faster than the child. I ate a lot at noon. I was tired after working all day and needed to replenish my nutrition to recover my strength quickly. In the afternoon, I sat cross-legged in the back garden to practice. Xiao Lu saw that I hadn't moved for a long time and thought I was asleep. So he took out his phone and played Peaceful Nikki to slack off. At Wong's group, Wong Siki curiously asked Xiaolian, where did you get this calligraphy? Xiaolian was about to cry and said helplessly, Boss Wong, you have been asking me all day, and I really don't know. Wong Siki tapped the table with his fingers, staring at Xiaolian, as if he wanted to see through her. Wong Siki said that the calligraphy appeared yesterday afternoon, and it was not there when she and I came back. Xiaolian tentatively said, Boss Wong, do you think, could it be written by the young master? Wong Siki was so angry that she laughed, thinking that it was too unrealistic for a 5-year-old child to write such calligraphy. The afternoon passed quickly. Wong Siki went home and had dinner with me, then watched cartoons. Xiaoku. Huh? What's wrong, seventh sister? I stopped eating grapes and looked at her. Nothing. I just wanted to tell you that fourth sister will be home in a few days. Fourth sister. I was a little confused. Apart from the seventh sister, I had never met anyone else in the family. Yes, your fourth sister has a bad temper. Unlike me, she only feels sorry for her younger brother. After saying that, she kissed me on the face. I felt numb from head to toe, and I kept wondering, did my sister drink? No, there's no smell of alcohol. How strange. I was so scared that I sat on the sofa and dared not move. Okay, come here. Sister is teasing you. My heart was pounding. I was really scared just now, but it felt good to be kissed by my sister for the first time. After watching TV, I went back to my room and took another chi-receiving pill to continue my practice. In the next few days, I ate, exercised, and practiced every day. In these few days, my spiritual energy expanded to the critical point, and I was just one step away from entering the middle stage of chi refining. These days, I refined 4 more furnaces of chi-absorbing pills. Each furnace has 10 pills, a total of 40 pills. And I always feel that seventh sister has been acting strange these days, always kissing my cheek, although I don't resist. These days, I have explored the manor several times and have figured out the basic layout. After dinner today, before Wong Siki could tease me, I hurried back to my room. Does my brother dislike me? Wong Siki muttered as she took out her phone and saw a message from her fourth sister. Wong Winya, seventh sister, come to the Magic City Airport to pick me up tomorrow afternoon. Siki, I'm busy. She put away her phone and went upstairs to take a shower. I returned to my room, locked the door, jumped onto the bed excitedly, and took out 2 chi-gathering pills from my storage ring. Tonight, I'm going to reach the middle stage of chi refining. In the Wong family manor villa, Xiao Hei was sleeping soundly. I was in a room on the 2nd floor, with silver light flowing around me, spiritual energy entering my body, preparing to reach the middle stage of chi refining. After swallowing 2 chi-gathering pills, I closed my eyes and practiced. After 6 days of practice, my spiritual energy was saturated but was blocked by a barrier. I gathered my spiritual energy and impacted it again and again, but the barrier only vibrated slightly. The spiritual energy was insufficient, so I took another chi-gathering pill and continued to impact it frantically. Finally, with a bang, the barrier broke and I successfully broke through. The warm air flowed, the dantian expanded, the dirt was discharged, the height increased, and the skin became whiter and tenderer. The next day, Aunt Lon called me to get up. I knocked on the door, but no one answered and I found it was locked. I opened the door and a fishy smell came. I opened my eyes and sensed Aunt Lon coming in. After the breakthrough, my spiritual awareness increased greatly and my mental strength also improved. Aunt Lon asked me why I was dirty and smelly. I lied that I was catching fish with Xiao Hei and quickly took my clothes and rushed into the bathroom. After going downstairs, I called my sister to get some fruit, but I saw Wong Siki and Aunt Lon looking at me in shock. Wong Siki trembled and asked me how cute I was, then hugged me and kissed me. It was not until I looked in a mirror that I realized that my temperament had changed after the breakthrough. I was white and plump and had a milky fragrance. I ate little breakfast, and my sister kept staring at me. After that, Wong Siki didn't go to the company, and Xiaolian sneezed in the group. I guess she was tortured by work and missed her. Wong Siki changed into casual clothes and wanted to take me out to play. I put on my denim jacket and overalls, and we got in the Porsche 718 convertible and left the manor. Xiao Lu, who was sweeping the floor, tied Xiao Hei to a tree while I was away, teased it with a chicken leg, and muttered words of revenge. Aunt Lon was in the villa wondering where Xiao Hei had gone. I bought snacks, milk tea, and chicken legs at Dewang Mall. Wong Siki and I walked in the crowd, and we got lots of attention. Passers-by talked about me, praising my sister for her long legs and envying my cuteness. I was scared by everyone's stares, so I pulled my sister to ask where we were going next. Wong Siki smiled and said she would take me to the amusement park. When I heard Wong Siki say that we were going to the amusement park, I felt a little unenthusiastic. I had read a lot of books in the past few days at Wong's Manor, and I knew that amusement parks were all small entertainment facilities, so I was not very interested. Wong Siki saw that I was not interested, and she couldn't help but wonder if the guide she read was unreliable. Yesterday, someone recommended taking children to the amusement park to make them happy all day. She thought to see if I liked it first, and if not, she would change places. We continued walking in the mall. Wong Siki looked at clothes and jewelry from time to time. Soon, I was holding 2 gift bags and following her as her follower. Walking into a store, Wong Siki glanced at the jewelry in the store. Although there were many types, she felt that they were tacky. At this time, a feminine voice came from behind. "Hello, beautiful lady." We ignored it. The person said again, "This lady, can I meet you?" Wong Siki turned around and saw a man in his 20s with dyed yellow hair. He looked pretty good, like a young man. But she didn't want to deal with such an immature man and responded coldly, "Not interested." This handsome guy is called Ma Yulong. He is a student of jade identification and processing technology at Shanghai University and a playboy. He thinks Wong Siki must have a rich family background. If he can pursue her, he will not only have no worries about food and drink, but also earn enough face in front of his classmates. He put on a smile that he thought was sunny and said, "Miss, I see you seem to be choosing jewelry. I happen to know a little about jade. How about I take you to have a look?" Wong Siki didn't want to waste time, so she threatened directly. "Looking at your dress, you must be a college student. I advise you not to have any bad ideas. Otherwise, you will regret your presumptuous behavior." Ma Yulong thought she had a hot temper and was more challenging, so he didn't take the threat seriously. He bowed like a gentleman and said in a gentle voice, "Miss, I think you're also quite bored, so why don't I take you to the jade shop, where there are exciting gambling stones, lottery, raw stones, and jade materials." I was listening to this and suddenly became interested. If I could find high-quality spiritual jade, I could make some spiritual tools for my sister, which would be both precious and practical. I couldn't wait to ask, "Where's the jade shop?" Ma Yulong only then noticed me and was shocked by my cute appearance. He wanted to find a breakthrough from the child and hurriedly said, "Little brother, can I take you there? It's on the 7th floor of the Dwang shopping mall." But I directly replied to him, "Brother, no need. I can go with my sister. You should go find the next beautiful sister. You are not worthy of my sister." This made his smile freeze, and he was extremely embarrassed under the gaze of everyone. Wong Siki secretly praised me for doing a good job. Ma Yulong was ashamed and angry, and he made a phone call as soon as he left the house. I wanted more milk tea after finishing it, so I looked at Sister Chi secretly. She understood immediately and said with a smile that she would buy it for me. I stopped her, shook my iPhone, and said, "Sister, I have money too. I can pay with my phone." Then I ran to the milk tea shop with a smile on my face. Wong Siki saw that she had bought a lot of things, so she called Annie Lon to ask her family to send a maid to pick them up. She sat outside the store and watched me queue up. The clerk shouted, "The lychee bobo milk tea is ready. Next one," but no one came forward, so I hurriedly shouted, "Sister Clerk." The clerk leaned over and saw me and was touched by my cuteness. I ordered 2 cups of strawberry bobo milk tea and pointed at Wong Siki outside. When everyone saw her, they were amazed at the good genes in this family. The clerk reminded me to pay and asked me to call her sister. I shook my head and said I had money. The people in the queue behind me were surprised to see me using a Fruit 14 Pro. The clerk also asked me how much 2 cups of milk tea cost. I answered it easily, scanned the code to pay, and left happily. The people behind me were dumbfounded when they saw that I had a balance of 100,000. Wong Siki praised me for being smart. She only knew that I often went to the study room and thought I was playing, but she didn't expect that I was reading. I learned addition in just a few days and suspected that I was a genius. We took the elevator to the 7th floor, and the servants followed us. Wong Siki gave them the things and took me for a stroll. This floor was different from the other floors. Many middle-aged and elderly people were wandering around. There were few shops, but many roadside stalls. Some people were selling frontier ice jade, now only 30,000, ancient emperor's dragon robe, 9,999, and blue and white porcelain made by a Qing dynasty master. I spread my consciousness, but didn't find any top-quality jade. The jade pendant on my neck can be made into a spiritual tool, but it was left to me by my parents, so I can't give it to my sister. Suddenly, my eyes were fixed on a stall. and I felt a faint fluctuation. I finally found the treasure. On the seventh floor of Wong Mall, many stall owners were selling their wares. It was a mess, like a vegetable market. I pulled my sister to a small stall, which was covered with a plastic bag and had more than a dozen items on it. The others looked ordinary to me, but the black ore in the corner attracted me. As soon as I felt it, I knew the age and internal structure of the ore. As soon as I got close, I found that it was black gold ore. It had excellent hardness and flexibility and was very spiritual. It was a good material for first-level refining. I asked the sleepy boss, "Boss, how much is this black stone?" The boss perked up and said calmly, 50,000. If you want to buy it, buy it. If you don't want to buy it, forget it. Wong Siki raised his eyebrows, probably thinking that this business is very profitable and could be developed in the future. I agreed decisively. This black gold ore is about 50 kilograms, and there is still some left to make a flying sword. When the boss saw how straightforward I was, he regretted asking too low a price. He cleared his throat, held the stone, and said in a cheap tone, "Wait, this stone is 50,000, but it's not sold alone. You have to buy something else." Wong Siki's face turned cold, and the aura of a superior immediately emerged. "You black-hearted boss, it's obviously a broken stone, but you dare to ask for an exorbitant price?" The stall owner was frightened and shivered. After a closer look, he felt that she looked familiar. After thinking about it again, his legs went weak, and he fell off the bench. He hurriedly said, "Take it, no. No money, free. I was very puzzled. How could my sister's words scare the boss like this? Later, I learned that Wong Siki's methods were ruthless. Among the top families in Shanghai, she was the only one among the younger generation who was in charge of the family group. Her strength and methods were evident. This boss suffered a loss in silence. The servant carried the black gold, or with difficulty, and sent it to the car downstairs. I was very happy with the good harvest, and then I wanted to find some good jade. Walking past the street stalls, there was a big jade shop in front, probably the place that the yellow-haired man mentioned. A group of people gathered in front of the store, and there was a stone cutter in the middle of the field. We squeezed in, and just in time to cut a huge stone. People around were talking about it, saying that this was the third time, and if it didn't turn out green, the young man would lose a lot. I looked at the huge stone carefully, and with a spiritual sense, I knew there was no jade in it. After entering the middle stage of chi refining, my spiritual sense greatly enhanced my perception ability. If it was before the breakthrough, I would not know what was in the stone. Ow! 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 Next to the stone cutter, a young man in his 20s waited anxiously, his face flushed. With a clang, the stone was cut open, and there was nothing. The young man collapsed and lay on the ground crying. He spent 400,000 yuan on 3 rough stones. This really cost him his life. Some people around him felt sorry, while others gloated over his misfortune. Looking back, the open space was filled with raw stones of various sizes with clearly marked prices. The larger ones were more expensive, while the smaller ones were cheaper. Others could only rely on the lines and the detection pin to guess whether the jade would turn out green, which was also the difficulty of gambling on stones. Some people became rich overnight, while others lost all their wealth. But I was like a cheat. My spiritual consciousness spread out, and I could clearly see the size, shape, and color of the jade in the raw stone. I shouted to Wong Siki, sister, I want to pick stones too. They look so fun." Wong Siki thought that although gambling on stones was risky, it was fine as long as she was happy. Losing a few million was nothing to her, so she agreed. I ran over excitedly to pick stones, but the staff grabbed me and said fiercely that children were not allowed to play. I felt very wronged and turned to my sister for help. Wong Siki snorted coldly. "Let him pick, I'll pay." Everyone looked at us, jokingly, thinking that we must not have much money. The staff was embarrassed and asked Wong Siki to verify the funds, fearing that she would not be able to pay after cutting. Wong Siki calmly took out a card from her bag and handed it over. Everyone started to make a noise, saying that the balance on the card was probably no more than 250 yuan, and some even said that if there was 100 yuan, he would stand on his head and eat raw stones and eat aioli gu. Wong Siki glanced at everyone coldly, and everyone shut up. After a while, a hot Cheongsam beauty came over with a staff member, respectfully returned the card to Wong Siki, and apologized for the offense just now, saying that the balance on the card was more than 100 million yuan, and invited her to the VIP seat to watch. Everyone was shocked, and the 2 people who made such a fuss ran away in shame. Seeing that my sister had made the arrangements, I went to pick stones. After walking around the gambling site, I had an idea in mind. I marked more than a dozen rough stones with a marker, some expensive at 200,000 yuan apiece, and some cheap at 2,000 yuan apiece. After choosing, the staff moved the stones to the stone cutter. The Chongsam woman handed Wong Siki a waiver letter, and she filled it out and swiped her card to pay 1.876 million. When swiping the card, the Chongsam woman looked at her with a high eye. After all, she spent nearly 2 million without changing her expression. This money was probably nothing to her. The staff asked me whether I wanted to cut the stone on site or take it away directly. The audience outside the venue excitedly shouted, "Cut, cut, cut." I thought that since I knew it well, it would be the same no matter where I cut it, so I said I would cut it on site. The staff asked the irrelevant personnel to step back, and the stone cutter came on stage, and the stone cutting process began. The staff put a medium-sized rough stone into the stone cutter. The master operated the machine and started cutting after watering. He has been cutting stones for more than 30 years and has rich experience. He is very serious with every cut and is very respected. I stood aside and watched, muttering softly, "This machine cuts too slowly. It might as well let me shoot it directly to make it faster." Fortunately, I said this in a low voice, otherwise it would make people laugh. The stone cutter had not cut green halfway through, and suddenly someone in the crowd shouted, "It's out, it's green." Cheers instantly resounded throughout the mall, and people who didn't know what was going on came to watch. After the first rough stone was cut, the internal structure was revealed. 1/3 of the smooth-cut surface was green. It was a medium-quality Qingshui jade stone with a large volume and could be sold at a good price. The staff shouted through a loudspeaker. According to the rules of this store, spectators can bid and the seller decides whether to sell it. Has anyone bid for the first rough stone? There's a lot of discussion below. Someone bid 100,000, and the price rose all the way to 140,000. The staff asked me if I would sell it, and I nodded in agreement. After all, this was the worst among the rough stones I picked. After the buyer paid, he excitedly took the stone away. The second piece of raw stone was cut. It was a small stone, and the master did not have any hope. It was cut open quickly, and the beautiful facets inside were revealed. It turned out to be top-grade black jade. The staff shouted, "A piece of top-grade black jade. Is there any bid from the audience?" Everyone made bids, and the final bid reached 200,000. I still chose to sell it, because it was not the jade I wanted. The master gave me a thumbs up and praised me for my good luck. The third piece was a large rough stone. After it was cut, there was nothing in the middle. Everyone sighed. I walked forward and pointed to the right half of the rough stone, asking the master to cut it again from there. The master did as he was told. Soon, a bluish-white light flashed, and it turned out to be a top-grade, glutinous, ice-type bluish-white jade. The audience immediately offered prices: 500,000, 800,000, 1 million. In the end, I sold it for 1 million, and Wong Siki thought I should keep it as a souvenir. When the fourth rough stone was cut, the place was quiet instantly. It turned out to be icy white jade, which attracted more people to watch. The owner of the jade shop offered 2 million, and I chose to sell it. Then the fifth rough stone turned out to be icy mutton fat jade, which sold for 2.8 million. The sixth rough stone turned out to be pure topaz, which sold for 1.3 million. The seventh and eighth rough stone sold for 900,000 in total. Everyone was stunned. It felt like this was not gambling on stones, but a live broadcast of jade unboxing, with each rough stone being sold at a high price. There were 4 pieces of raw stone left, and the master was numb. The ninth piece revealed mutton fat jade, which was slightly larger than the previous one. The jade shop bought it for 3 million. I don't care how much money I make, I just want to find the best jade to make a spiritual tool. Then the 10th rough stone was cut. Everyone was shocked to see the jade inside. What kind of jade is this? Is there transparent jade? The appraiser took a look and found that it was a top-grade glass jadeite, the size of a face. The staff shouted, "Top-grade glass jadeite, start bidding." The bald boss of the construction group bid 8 million, Fongjun Group bid 9 million, and the bosses of various groups bid one after another. In the end, Lee won it with 15 million. Only the last 2 pieces of raw stone were left, and the atmosphere on the scene was extremely tense. Another piece of raw stone was unwrapped, and everyone looked at this stone that looked like blue jade and talked about it. Several old experts ran over to check it out, and the appraiser excitedly said that this was not blue jade, but imperial blue jade. As soon as the news came out, the audience was in chaos. Some people wanted to rush to the stage to grab it. I watched coldly, and Wong Siki also stood up to protect me. After the security guards maintained order, a new round of scramble began. The second in command of the Lee family offered 300 million, the eldest son of the Ouyang family, Ouyang Xiao, offered 350 million, and Gao Jiejun, the president of Gao's group, directly shouted 700 million, determined to win. In the fierce bidding, the Ouyang family raised the price to 800 million. Everyone in the mall was so nervous that they couldn't breathe. Witnessing such a high-priced auction was like being in a dream. The price soared all the way. The moment Gao Jiejun shouted out 10 billion, the whole audience was still. This shock was like a heavy hammer hitting everyone's heart. The staff asked me if I would sell it, and I simply responded, no. The childish refusal spread, and the audience was in a state of surprise. Gao Jiejun was even more furious. He felt that I had fooled him, so he ordered the bodyguard to take action. A dozen black-clad bodyguards ran through the crowd, knocking down security guards and trying to take me away. Wong Siki quickly stood in front of me and shouted coldly, "Humph! I am Wong Siki's brother. Who dares to touch him?" Her momentum instantly crushed the bodyguards. Onlookers recognized her as the president of the Wong group and took photos to post on WeChat moments. A large number of Wong's bodyguards came to protect their master. Wong Siki's series of questions made Gao Jiejun blush. Seeing that the situation was not good, Gao Jiejun had to leave with his men in disgrace. Wong Siki signaled to continue cutting the stones. The last rough stone appeared, and a pure green light flashed. It turned out to be the king of jade, grandmother Imperial Green. Everyone was shocked, and the stone cutter was moved to tears. Wong Siki knew its value and ended the bidding. Surrounded by bodyguards, we left with the Imperial Blue Jade and Grandmother Imperial Green. The store was immediately flooded with crazy people. Everyone scrambled for rough stones, imagining that they could also cut good jade, but they didn't know that all the jade had been picked up by me. After I left the door, I sensed a familiar atmosphere, and I walked towards the alley with more than 50 bodyguards. In the alley, Ma Yulong was planning a kidnapping with a group of spirited young men, and he was also fantasizing about buying a sports car after training the rich woman. Wong Siki and I appeared, and at Wong Siki's command, the bodyguards rushed forward and beat the gangsters until they wailed, and Ma Yulong even fainted. Wong Siki also ordered an investigation into Ma Yulong's school so that he could not continue to go to school. After handing the jade to the bodyguard to pass on to Aunt Lon, we got in the car. Wong Siki hugged me happily and asked how much money I made. I told her that there were 273-39974 in WeChat. She kept praising me and wanted to kiss me, but I struggled to avoid her. Wong Siki came up with a plan, thinking of going home and letting me sleep with her to cultivate our relationship. I shuddered for no reason. At this time, Wong Siki saw the message from her fourth sister Wong Wenya, saying that she would go to Kyoto first and change her title to a professor in Shanghai, so there was no need to pick her up. After Wong Siki responded, she took me to have lunch, and in the afternoon, because we had to deal with the jade materials, we went directly back to the manor. Back at the villa, I got rid of Wong Siki, who was busy processing jade materials, thinking about using the Imperial Blue Jade to make jade pendants or bracelets for the sisters. I secretly took the black gold back to my room, imagining using it to make a flying sword and flying with it in the later stages of chi refining. However, I didn't realize that danger was quietly approaching, and the Gao family had already set their sights on me. At noon, I finished my practice and looked at Xiao Hei, who was still sleeping soundly. I was really bored, so I took out my phone and planned to watch some cartoons to relieve my boredom. Suddenly, a WeChat message from Lin Xiaoxiao popped up. Sister Xiaoxiao said that her mother had advanced gastric cancer, and the hospital was unwilling to accept her. She asked me if my family knew any doctors. I knew that this disease was not easy to treat, but I was very confident in the medical skills taught by my master. I had conquered all those difficult and complicated diseases before, so this disease would not be difficult for me. After thinking about it, I asked Sister Xiaoxiao to send me the location and prepare to go there immediately. I went downstairs to find Aunt Lon and wanted her to give me a set of silver needles. But Aunt Lon thought that this thing was dangerous and that children could not touch it, so she directly refused me. I had no choice but to ask Xiao Lu to be my driver. When we arrived at the garage, Xiao Lu was very excited and chose a Rolls-Royce Dawn. After the car started, I despised Xiao Lu's poor driving skills, so he quickly stabilized it and drove out of the manor. Across the manor, a sneaky man reported to the intercom that I was out. In the car, I asked Xiao Lu to take me to buy silver needles. He was a little hesitant, so I threatened him that I would complain to my sister, and he agreed. When we arrived at the medical equipment store, I bought the silver needles and asked Xiao Lu to drive according to the location sent by Sister Xiaoxiao. The car drove towards Yinbei District, and a van was following behind secretly. After entering Yinbei District, looking at the familiar environment, I asked Xiao Lu to stop the car and ran to buy milk tea. Unexpectedly, my luxury car attracted a group of heavily made-up girls who surrounded Xiao Lu and chatted with him. The van driver seized the opportunity and took me away with a sack while I was buying milk tea. Xiao Lu chased after him immediately after he found out, but was stopped by the girls. He was anxious, kicked the girl away, and got into the car to chase, but he still lost her in the end. He could only call the police and contact Aunt Lon. In the van, I knew what was going on and drank milk tea calmly. The car drove into the abandoned factory, and the kidnappers thought the mission was completed and got the reward. A hot woman sat there, directing the bodyguards to kidnap me. I naively asked her why she kidnapped me, but she thought my question was childish and refused to tell me. I warned her that I would beat her if she didn't tell me, and everyone around me laughed and didn't take my words seriously at all. At this moment, spiritual energy surged around me, and my clothes moved without wind, and a strong pressure instantly swept towards them. Everyone suddenly felt a heavy weight like a mountain pressing down on their heads. The woman's face turned pale instantly, and she ordered in panic, "Quick, catch him!" The bodyguards rushed towards me like a tide. I raised my hand lightly, and the stones on the ground floated. With a touch of my finger, the stones turned into hidden weapons, and with a few snap sounds, the bodyguards could not move. The woman screamed in fear. I walked closer and said with a smile, "Sister, tell me quickly, or I will really do it." She was unwilling to be scared by me and reached out to grab it. "Pa!" I slapped her in the face. She still wanted to resist, but after a few slaps, her face swelled up like a steam bun and she dared not say a word anymore. At this moment, there was a sudden break sound, and a bald man with a group of bodyguards rushed in. He was nearly 2 meters tall and exuded a murderous aura, but what shocked me was that there was a trace of turbid spiritual energy in his body. The big man taunted the woman and then ordered the bodyguards to attack me. I dodged, punched, and kicked, and within a minute, the bodyguard were lying on the ground wailing. The big man was stunned, but still insisted that I go back to Wong's house with him. I was alert, and he suddenly rushed over like a bulldozer, punching me with his fist as big as a sandbag. I raised my hand to fight back, and with a bang, he was shocked and retreated repeatedly, his right hand trembling, as if it was broken. I questioned him, but he was still not convinced, so I kicked him away, and he hit the pillar and fainted. I learned from the woman that the Gao family wanted to arrest me, so I asked the kidnappers to take me away. In the van, the kidnappers were so scared that they dared not breathe, and they even gave me coke to please me. When we arrived at the place, they ran away. I followed the navigation to find Lin Xiao. When she saw that I was alone, her eyes were full of disappointment. I quickly explained that my sister would be there soon, and she rekindled her hope and took me home. Her home is on the 12th floor. In the elevator, I looked at her haggard appearance, and my heart was filled with sympathy. When I entered the house, a smell of medicine hit me. Her family members were sitting on the sofa, and when they saw me, they all showed dissatisfaction. Her brother accused her of bringing a child here at this time. Lin Xiao retorted with red eyes, but her father sighed and said that I, a child, can't help, so let her send me back. Lin Xiao couldn't stop crying, and her father was full of self-blame. Just then, I said in a baby voice, "Auntie, there's still hope, don't worry." Everyone was stunned and looked at me. As soon as I said those words in a baby voice, although the volume was not loud, it was like a heavy hammer hitting everyone's heart hard. Lin Xiao's face was full of tears. She tightly grasped my shoulders and asked in a sobbing voice, "Is there any other way to save my mother? I am willing to do anything." Everyone's eyes fell on me in an instant, full of doubt, but also hiding a faint hope. Just as he was thinking about how to cure his aunt without revealing the truth, there was a knock on the door. Lin Xiao's brother ran to open the door. When Lin's father saw Dr. Li in a white robe coming in, he quickly forced a smile to greet him. After Dr. Li sat down, he asked about Lin's mother's condition. When Lin's father talked about his wife's condition, he couldn't help crying. Dr. Li got up to see Lin's mother, and I followed him, but was stopped by Lin Xiao's brother. I suddenly had an idea and told him that my sister was the vice president of the first affiliated hospital of Shanghai. I would talk to my sister, and maybe she could help. He hesitated for a moment, but still let me in, and repeatedly told me not to make trouble. Walking into the room, a mixed smell hit me. Mother Lin on the bed looked pale and bloodless. Dr. Li opened the medicine box and prepared to give me acupuncture. I knew at a glance that he used the wrong herbs and the wrong acupuncture method. Just as he was about to give me the acupuncture, I couldn't help but shout, "No, Grandpa, the first needle cannot be inserted into the biweek point." When Dr. Lee heard this, his face turned red with anger. He had been practicing medicine for decades. How could he be questioned by a child like me? He angrily told me to stop talking nonsense or get out. But how could I watch him use the wrong method? So I reached out and grabbed his hand while he was giving acupuncture and said seriously, "If you can't treat the disease, don't force it." This is the attitude a doctor should have. I shook him off lightly, and he took several steps back. Before he got angry, I had already taken out the silver needle and started acupuncture. When I used the flying needle technique to insert the silver needle into the lingu acupoint, Dr. Lee was stunned. He could never have imagined that I could do this at such a young age. While I was acupuncture, I gently comforted Lin's mother not to be nervous. After a set of Xin Yang 18 needles, Lin's mother said that her stomach felt warm and comfortable. I felt relieved and wrote a prescription and handed it to Dr. Lee. When he saw the prescription, he was so surprised that he almost jumped up. He was so impressed by my medical skills that he asked me who my master was. I couldn't reveal my master, so I quickly said that I didn't have one. After checking Lin's mother's health, Dr. Lee and I returned to the living room. He told the Lin family what happened. The Lin family was surprised and happy. Lin's father bowed to me with tears in his eyes to thank me. I was a little embarrassed. After telling them to take medicine on time and pay attention to diet, I planned to go home. Lin Xiao and Dr. Lee sent me out. On the way, Dr. Lee tried to get some information from me, but I ignored him. When we got to the gate of the community, I couldn't resist and added him on WeChat. When Lin Xiao saw that I didn't have a car to pick me up, I could only say aggrievedly that my sister had to leave after sending me here because she had something to do at the hospital. Fearing that it would be unsafe for me to go home alone, Lin Xiao took a taxi to go back with me. When we arrived at the Wong family manor, she was stunned by the magnificent manor. I quickly lied and said that my home was nearby and I could walk back by myself. Then, under her gaze, I walked around the manor and left. In the villa of the Wong family manor, Xiao Lu was kneeling in the hall, trembling. Wang Siqi's face was full of anger. She yelled at him, "You stole a sports car, took the young master away, and let the young master be kidnapped. What use are you? My Wong family is not a place to keep idle people." Xiao Lu was so scared that he was shaking all over. Wang Siqi continued, "You can get out now. Leave the magic city, the farther the better. Oh no, I will send you to my second sister for a good transformation." Xiao Lu lay on the ground crying. It was simply deadly to go to the war-torn border area where the second lady was. Ever since Xiao Lu returned to the Wong family in a state of despair, Aunt Lan sent someone to restrain him. When they learned that I was kidnapped, everyone panicked and quickly told Sister Seven. Aunt Lan was also scolded. After all, everyone was responsible for my affairs. Wang Siqi suppressed her anger and ordered a citywide search for me, focusing on the Yanbei district and analyzing the characteristics of the kidnappers. At this time, Wang Siqi's cell phone rang. It was her fourth sister Wong Wenya calling. She had just gotten off the airport and was very happy to go home to see me. Wang Siqi hesitated and answered the call. When she told me about my kidnapping, she heard the sound of something being thrown on the other end of the line. Her fourth sister got angry and hung up the phone. Wang Siqi had no choice but to join the search team. When I went back to the manor, I saw luxury cars parked one after another. An elegant and beautiful lady wearing glasses and a black jumpsuit got out of the car. She had delicate features and a hot body, but her face was cold and angry. A group of middle-aged uncles followed behind her and were still discussing something with her. She said impatiently, "I said, I will not choose other universities. No need to discuss. I'm only registered in Shanghai University in name only. If you have anything, go to the Global Education Committee to talk." After that, she strode towards the manor, and the uncles returned empty-handed. When she saw me, she was puzzled, walked over and squatted down to ask, "What's your name? Why are you standing here alone? Aren't you afraid of being kidnapped?" I shook my head and said, "My name is Wang Xiaoka. This is my home." She also pointed to the Wong family manor. When she heard it, she immediately hugged me and said, "So it turns out that you are my brother. Come and let your sister hold you." She hugged me so hard that I was almost out of breath, and then she realized and put me down, introduced herself as the fourth sister Wang Wenya, and asked me to call her Sister Xiaoya or Sister Yaya. After that, she picked me up and walked towards the manor. She was really strong, and the seventh sister couldn't hold me for so long. After entering the gate, the security guard notified, Attention all units. The fourth young lady has gone home, and the young master has gone home. Cars drove out of the Wong family garage one after another, and Wong Siki was looking for me anxiously. Suddenly, she saw the fourth sister and me, and shouted, "Stop the car!" The car braked hastily. Wong Siki got out of the car and asked, "Fourth sister, why is my little brother here with you?" The fourth sister complained, "Oh, I'm not saying anything bad about you, seventh sister, but it's too unreliable to leave my precious little brother with you." Wong Siki hurriedly admitted her mistake, and the three of them went back to the villa, talking and laughing. I said weakly, "Sister, I can walk when I'm more than 5 years old. I don't need to be carried." The fourth sister retorted, "What's wrong with 5 years old? You're still your brother when you're 10 or 18 years old. Your seventh sister was still clamoring with dad to be held when she was 5 years old." After entering the house, Xiaohei ran over to pounce on me. Fourth sister was startled and kicked Xiaohei 2 meters away. I quickly ran over to hug Xiaohei. Fourth sister realized that she kicked my pet and smiled awkwardly. Fortunately, Xiaohei took my chi-absorbing pill and was fine. The family quickly became lively. The two sisters chatted on the sofa, and Xiaohei and I watched Pleasant Wolf and Big Big Sheep. I could sense sounds within 20 meters and heard them whispering about the Kyoto royal family and the imperial family. After dinner, I was going to sleep. I thought that my fourth sister would come back and my seventh sister would not force me to sleep again. But my fourth sister came into my room with a computer and said that I was afraid to sleep alone and wanted to sleep with her. I was helpless when Wong Siki also pushed the door in. The two asked each other, "Why are you here?" In the end, both of them refused to leave. I was sandwiched in the middle with the hot fourth sister on one side and the pretty seventh sister on the other. I couldn't sleep at all. I missed the time when I slept alone. In the early morning before daybreak, I woke up from a nightmare in which a group of slimes were crawling all over my face. When I woke up, I found my face was sticky. It turned out that my seventh and fourth sisters were holding me on each side, drooling. I couldn't stand this scene. I ran to the sofa on the first floor with my little dinosaur doll in my hand and lay down angrily. Aunt Lon was surprised to see me getting up early and was puzzled by my sleeping on the sofa. An hour later, the two sisters woke up and found me not there. They came downstairs to find me, saw the saliva marks on my face, questioned each other, and finally tacitly concluded that I was sleepwalking and went to wash up. At breakfast, the fourth sister was full of energy in her training clothes, and the seventh sister was in a good mood in her work clothes. After dinner, they were busy with their own things. I finally had some time alone and immediately took Xiaohei to the back garden to practice. I absorbed the spiritual energy into my dantian, and my skin and body continued to improve. Xiaohei practiced while sleeping. His hair became shinier, and there was a bulge on his head. After a morning, I was annoyed by the long time it would take to practice to the late stage of chi refining. I thought that the gathering spirit array could speed up the process, and I secretly decided to set it up in the manner when I had enough cultivation. At this time, my seventh sister called and asked my fourth sister and I to prepare for the banquet in the afternoon. When I returned to the villa, I saw a mountain of boxes piled up in the hall. They were the gifts that my fourth sister had airlifted from Country M to me. I opened them excitedly. There were small robots, toy racing cars, swords, etc., all things that boys like. After half an hour, my hands were sore from opening the gifts, and half of the gifts were left. Aunt Lon called us to have lunch. During the meal, I learned that these gifts cost 8 million yuan, and I was shocked by the financial resources of my sisters. After the meal, my fourth sister said that today was the 80th birthday of the old man of the Gu family. The second son of the old man, Gu Biao, was my father's comrade in arms and the elder of my sisters, so the Wong family must attend. I only then learned that my father was a soldier, and before I could ask in detail, I was interrupted by my sister. My fourth sister said she would dress me up for the banquet so that people could see her precious brother. She also said that she would protect me. She carried me upstairs. I secretly wanted to grow taller quickly and get rid of the fate of being carried. When I got to the bathroom, I realized something was wrong and firmly refused my fourth sister to help me take a bath. She looked puzzled and finally left helplessly. When I was taking a bath, I was very nervous and turned on my spiritual perception to the maximum for fear that my sister would suddenly come in. I sighed that my sister was too scary. After taking a shower, I carefully poked my head out and made sure that my fourth sister had left before I walked into the room, secretly trying to avoid her. Back in the small room, I threw myself directly onto the soft bed, only to find myself lying in my fourth sister's arms. "Fourth sister, why are you in my bed?" My fourth sister kissed me on the cheek and said she would supervise me getting dressed. She also pointed to a set of unique robes at the bedside and urged me to change into them. Under the caring care of the fourth sister, I put on a light yellow gold-rimmed gown, a white shirt inside, and black straight pants. The colored glazed decorations on the clothes sparkled. Standing there, I looked like a jade figure carved from a beautiful jade, with a noble temperament. The fourth sister's eyes were full of stars, praising my handsomeness, and clapped her hands to call a row of maids to bring jewelry. After selection, she put on a diamond necklace, a silver bracelet, and a ring on me, and my temperament was raised to a higher level. The fourth sister took a photo and sent it to the sisters group, and then went to dress herself up. The room was finally quiet. I sighed helplessly. Fourth sister said she would come downstairs in 10 minutes. 2 hours passed without any movement. I watched cartoons for a long time. I released my spiritual perception and found that her bed was full of clothes she had tried on, and she was about to change into another one. I quickly retracted my perception and didn't look at anything inappropriate. Another hour later, seventh sister came back, saw me refreshed, rubbed me, and said she would be ready in 10 minutes, but I didn't believe it. We practiced until the afternoon, and the two sisters finally came downstairs. The fourth sister wore a black princess dress and a blue diamond necklace, looking as charming as a flaming red rose. The seventh sister wore a green dress, showing off her aloof goddess temperament. We took the bodyguards and maids and set off for Gu's house. The Gu family's birthday banquet was attended by all the well-known figures, luxury cars, and a grand scene. Guests entered one after another. First the Li family, Chun family, and Wei family from Shanghai, then the Ouyang family, the Xie family from Linjiang, the Hu family, and the Gao family. The hall was bustling with activity. We were quarreled by the two sisters on the way. When we arrived at Gu's house, the road was blocked by security. The young security guard wanted to stop us, but the captain patted his head and let us go. I pointed to an empty space to park, but it was occupied by a Lexus. The seventh sister said I could drive in. At the door, we showed the golden invitation card, and the bodyguard bowed and let us go. The elephant drum sounded, announcing the Wong family from the Magic City has arrived, and people in the hall looked at us. Some praised my sister for her beauty, and some recognized me as the young master of the Wong family. I also saw Gao Jiajun, Chun Chu-Chu, and several major families bidding for my rough stone. Under so many gazes, we did not feel uncomfortable at all. The temperament that the sisters exuded inadvertently was not something that ordinary people could compare to. Gu Biao on the second floor saw us, and a faint smile appeared on his cold face. The hall is divided into the inner and outer areas to separate people of different ranks to avoid trouble. Wong Siki and Wong Wenya took my hand and walked to the inner area together. But when I saw the small desserts on the table, I couldn't move my feet. We walked through the thick crowd and came to a wide square. The people here were either rich or noble. At this time, a man with a scar on his neck and a murderous aura came to the sisters. His eyes were calm and deep, revealing mystery. I could tell that he had killed many people. "Hello, Uncle Biao." The sisters greeted him, and I was relieved. It turned out that he was Gu Biao, my father's comrade in arms. Gu Biao smiled and said, "You two children are becoming more and more sensible. Old Wong is so lucky to have several good daughters. I am envious of you." Wong Siki covered her mouth and laughed secretly. Wong Wenyao waved her hands quickly. "Uncle, please don't praise us. I heard that my younger brother was admitted to Kyoto University at the beginning of this month. His future is limitless." The three of us were chatting happily, and Gu Biao just noticed me at this time. "This is the little baby that the Wong family found. Uncle hasn't seen it yet. Come and let Uncle hold it." I looked at Uncle Gu's tough appearance and instinctively resisted. Gu Biao touched his head awkwardly. "It seems that I scared Xiao Ko. By the way, your father discussed it with us when naming the little guy. Oh, by the way, a pretty little girl in a white dress, about 1.2 meters tall, walked over. Wong Wenya touched her head gently. "Xiao Yiya, you have grown so big. The last time I saw you, you were only this tall." Looking at the abstract gestures of my fourth sister, I found it inexplicably funny. "Let's go. There are seats in front. Let's go over there and chat." "Yeah, take your brother to play. Dad has something to discuss." The little girl nodded obediently. After the sisters and Uncle Biao left, we two children were left looking at each other. "Hey, what's your name?" The little girl blinked her big eyes and asked delicately. "My name is Wang Xiaoke. I'm 5.5 years old this year." "My name is Gu Qianyue. I'm 7 years old this year." "Oh." After a brief conversation, I wanted to walk around. The desserts and drinks outside made me craving for them. I said goodbye to Gu Qianyue in a hurry and walked to the outer field eagerly. Hey, you can't go out. Gu Qianyue chased after me and stopped me from running around. After practicing to the middle stage of qi refining, I always felt that my peers were childish, including Gu Qianyue. I turned around and said earnestly, I want to go outside to get some fresh air. If you want to go, go ahead. After that, I walked into the outer field without looking back. Gu Qianyue stamped her feet and followed me angrily. The outer area is bigger than the inner area, and there are more people, mostly small bosses who want to make friends with big shots. The circle is chaotic and mixed, but none of this matters. What I care most about is the dessert on the table. I came to the glass table and sat down. Gu Qianyue also sat next to me, lying on the table and observing me. I ignored her and picked up the drink and cake to eat. My chubby face became rounder. I squinted my eyes happily, feeling that this was the happiest thing at the banquet. Gu Qianyue asked doubtfully, is this thing so delicious? I almost choked, and after swallowing the cream, I said, of course, cake and Coke are the best. Gu Qianyue tentatively ate a piece of cake. Oh, it's not delicious at all. It's too greasy. She quickly drank a sip of water. We sat in the corner, and I didn't stop eating for 10 minutes. Gu Qianyue suspected that my stomach was a bottomless pit. After the last cup of Coke, I patted my stomach with satisfaction and said to myself, little belly, are you full? Little belly is full. My words made Gu Qianyue laugh. I jumped off my seat. Gu Qianyue held my hand and whispered in my ear, do you want to go to the backyard to play? There's swings and carts there. It's much more fun than here. I thought about it and nodded. Anyway, I was full and had nothing to do. I didn't want to stay in this boring party. Gu Qianyue pulled me to the backyard, and the adults on the road quickly dodged. A middle-aged woman couldn't help but scold. Whose child is this? You didn't watch him carefully. He almost bumped into someone. This attracted strange looks. Her husband is a Chinese boss, so he is qualified to come in. Her husband found out that she said something wrong and quickly covered her mouth. She became even angrier, bit her husband, and called him a psychopath in public. Her husband couldn't stand it and slapped her. They're the little princess of the Gu family and the young master of the Wong family. It's okay if they act like a spoiled child at other times, but they don't restrain themselves here. After this incident, the two were pointed at and finally left the banquet directly. In the backyard of the Gu family, there is a full moon tonight. The moonlight is neither bright nor dim. With the help of the decorative light strips and lighting, you can see clearly. I excitedly sat on the swing, and Gu Qianyue pushed from behind. Woohoo! The swing flew very high, and the breeze blew on my face, making me feel cool. After a while, it was Gu Qianyue's turn to sit. I pushed gently, and the swing swung very high. Xiaoke, slow down, I'm scared. I reduced my strength a little, and the swing swung lower, and our laughter echoed in the backyard. Tired of playing, we sat on the steps and looked at the moon. Gu Qianyue held her little face and asked me, Xiaoke, I'm about to go to school. How about you? Starting school? I shook my head. I just got home and haven't registered yet. You're not going to school? I went to kindergarten when I was 4 years old, and now I'm going to the 2nd grade. Gu Qianyue looked surprised, and her tone was quite proud. I remembered that my sister said that school would start in September. It's only the beginning of August now, and there is still a month. It seems that I have to discuss school with my sister when I go home, otherwise I will fall behind others. As I was thinking, I suddenly noticed something unusual, like being locked by a poisonous snake. Not good. I immediately pulled Gu Qianyue up. Swoosh! Several silver needles with poison were inserted into the place where I was sitting. I didn't have time to explain, so I pushed Gu Qianyue away, and several more poisonous needles passed by. Go back quickly and find my sister. Gu Qianyue was terrified and hurried to the back door. Swoosh! The poison needle shot towards Gu Qianyue again. I hurriedly took out the small sword my sister gave me and blocked it with the scabbard. Gu Qianyue was close to the back door and ran into the villa in a short while. Using silver needles as weapons, people must be nearby. I thought to myself. My spiritual awareness spread quickly. I pulled out the small sword, walked forward step by step, and observed the surroundings vigilantly. Finally, my spiritual sense sensed a dark shadow hiding in the tree. You want to kill me? Who are you? My childish voice made the killer stunned. He must be wondering how this little guy found me. Impossible. Before he could react, I rushed over quickly, tapped my toes, and my body flew into the air. I did a backflip and stood in front of the killer. Who are you? Why did you attack me? I pointed the sword at him. My chubby face was a little cold. Master said that if someone wants to kill you, you don't have to show mercy. The killer didn't say anything, but pulled out a steel dagger and stabbed me. Puff! My little sword pierced his heart, and his life slowly faded away. How? How is it possible? The killer couldn't believe that he would die at the hands of a child until his death. I pulled out the little sword, my body trembling, my face pale. This was my first time killing someone, and my subconscious counterattack took his life. I used my sword to remove the killer's mask. It was a strange middle-aged man. It seemed that there was no clue. I resisted the discomfort and used my martial arts to throw out a spiritual fire, which devoured the killer. In the end, only a handful of ashes were left. I shook my spiritual energy, and the ashes were blown into the sky. I don't know why, but I recovered quickly after killing someone for the first time. I waved my little hand to wipe off the blood on the sword, and a killer completely disappeared from this world. At the same time, a group of people's hurried footsteps came from the back door. No need to guess, it must be my sister and her friends. I tiptoed and floated to the steps. The back door of the villa was kicked open, and a group of bodyguards rushed into the backyard with weapons, followed closely by Wong Wenya, Wong Siki, Gu Biao, and others. In order to avoid panic, they did not notify others and came directly with bodyguards. Wong Siki and her sister panted heavily, looking around the backyard, and kept calling my name. Sister. I emerged from behind the green tree, trembling, and hurried to my sister. Wong Wenya hugged me tightly and hurried to check if I was injured. Seeing that I was fine, she finally let go of her worries. Wong Siki asked me seriously, "What happened just now? Did someone want to attack you?" I pretended to be scared and said weakly, "Just now a man in black threw flying needles at us. After we dodged, I asked Sister Chinhua to call you." When the man in black saw her enter the villa, he ran towards the wall. Gu Biao's face was livid. If something happened to his eldest brother's son in his own home, he would not be able to face the Wong family. He called 2 teams of bodyguards and personally led the team to conduct a thorough investigation in the backyard. Wong Siki walked to the steps and picked up a silver needle to check. Except for the unknown liquid on the needle tip, no other characteristics were found. She couldn't help but cursed. Damn, a killer who uses silver needles as weapons is too hard to guard against. Wong Wenya walked to her side and asked softly, "Why don't you ask the second sister to send some warriors to protect my brother?" I heard the word warrior and wondered if it refers to people who practice martial arts. Gu Biao checked around, but found nothing. So he asked the bodyguard to continue patrolling, and he came over first. He said to us, "It's safe for now. I will send more people. Father's birthday banquet is about to start. Let's go in first." Wong Siki and the others nodded and took the frightened me back to the villa. At this time, the atmosphere at the scene gradually reached a climax. Everyone had already taken their seats, waiting for Mr. Gu. As soon as we sat down, I felt someone staring at me. I saw that it was Gao Jiajun, and he quickly looked away. Could it be that the Gao family sent someone to attack me? I suppressed my thoughts and ignored it. On the stage, Gu Ping'an took the microphone and gave a speech, thanking everyone for attending his father's birthday party. After the speech, Mr. Gu came on stage. Although he was old, he had a ruddy complexion and an extraordinary aura. I could feel that he was in good health and had at least 10 years to live. After thanking everyone, the old man announced that everyone would receive a gift from the Gu family. Then they started to receive gifts. All the big families presented generous gifts. The Li family in Magic City presented a famous painting. The Chen family in Magic City presented a deep blue diamond. The Hu family in Linjiang presented a set of ancient porcelain, a Tiger King fur. The Ouyang family in Magic City presented 10 sports cars, a 100-year-old ginseng. Everyone was amazed when they heard about the 100-year-old ginseng. The Wong family in Magic City presented an Emperor Blue Jade pendant, an original Tang poem, and a helicopter. I pulled my 7th sister in surprise. "Sister, do we have helicopters at home?" Wong Siki looked at me in astonishment. "Of course, little brother, we have many at home, usually parked on the helipad. You can't see them." I couldn't help but wonder how many secrets there were in the family. Most of the ones he read later were about first and second-rate families, and I lost interest. Grandpa Gu was in a good mood after the birthday banquet, and Gu Biao still looked guilty about what happened before. Grandpa Gu drank tea and chatted with the sisters, and asked my father, "How is Xiaohao? Didn't he say he would come back?" Wong Siki explained, "Father's border is in chaos. It will probably take a while, and the same is true for my second sister." Grandpa Gu asked again if I'd told my father about finding me, and Wong Siki said no. If I had told him, there would be no one guarding the border. After that, the Wong family was ready to leave, and Gu Biao, Gu Ping'an and Gu Qianyue came to see them off. Gu Biao joked, "You Wong family boy has seduced my daughter's soul, and I don't want you to leave." Wong Siki smiled and replied, "Let's discuss the child marriage later, and Uncle Biao will become a relative." But I believed it and nervously pulled Wong Siki, seventh sister. "I don't want to be engaged to Gu Qianyue." Wong Siki smiled and tapped my forehead. "No, no, the sisters want you to be happy, and we support you in whatever you want to do." Wong Winya also nodded in agreement. After returning to the Wong family manor, I washed up and went back to my room to lie down, counting silently in my mind, 10, 9, 3, 2, 1. Just after I finished counting, the door was opened with a bang, and the fourth sister came to sleep again. Sure enough, a few seconds later, Wong Siki also came in with a pillow. There were 3 people sleeping in one bed, and I didn't dare to move for fear that I would be hugged if I turned over. I asked in the dark, "Sister, should I sign up for school?" Wong Siki pinched my face and said, "Yes, I signed you up for kindergarten." "Huh? I don't want to go to kindergarten. Can I go to elementary school?" Wong Winya interrupted. "If you don't lay a good foundation when you are young, learning will become more and more difficult." I thought to myself, I have learned all the knowledge in elementary school. With the learning ability of the Qi refining period, I can read 10 lines at a glance and remember everything I see. The content of elementary school is too simple for me. I acted coquettishly in my sister's arms, and they finally gave in, saying that if I could solve the first grade of elementary school tomorrow, I don't have to go to kindergarten. In fact, Wong Siki also had considerations. She saw me calculate the price of 2 cups of milk tea for 16 yuan before. That was a first-grade edition problem. She knew that I was smarter than ordinary children. The 3 of them fell silent. The moonlight fell, and the servants also rested. Although I felt that my sisters smelled good and my skin was comfortable, it affected my practice. Finally, while my sister's lips were close to mine, I quietly withdrew and tiptoed to Wong Siki's room on the 3rd floor. Sitting on the big bed, I swallowed 2 chi-absorbing pills in one breath and practiced cross-legged. While practicing, silver light circulated around my body, and suddenly a black light flashed, but everything seemed normal. Early in the morning, Wong Siki and Wong Winya met each other with sleepy eyes, and awkwardness instantly filled the air. The 2 were seen hugging each other intimately, their pajamas messy. "Ahem, I'll go wash up first." Wong Winya coughed dryly, quickly woke up, put on her shoes, and walked out of the room. Wong Siki sat up and scanned the room, guessing that his brother had run out early in the morning. At this time, Xiaoko on the 3rd floor had just finished practicing, his eyes bright. He felt that the sword technique was most suitable for him at the moment, and it could minimize the consumption of spiritual energy. Weapons have a great combat power blessing, and attaching spiritual energy to weapons and using moves can reduce the loss of spiritual energy. So, Xiaoko decided to practice simple sword techniques. After washing up, Xiaoko took out the sword from his storage ring and went downstairs excitedly. His 2 sisters were already at the dining table, and Aunt Lan was about to call him to eat. Wong Siki saw Xiaoko holding the sword and frowned. "Brother, come and eat." Wong Winya waved. After the 3 of them had breakfast, Wong Siki asked in confusion, "Little brother, is this a toy sword?" Xiaoko scratched his head and pulled out the small sword. The sword was about 2 feet long, silvery in color due to its special material, and very flexible. Wong Siki was surprised and felt that this sharp weapon was unsafe, so he asked Xiaoko to hand it over. Xiaoko refused, as he still wanted to practice swordplay. The 2 of them chased each other in the room, making everyone laugh. Finally, Xiaoko picked up the sleeping Xiao Hei and rushed to the backyard of the villa. Xiao Hei fell helpless. "Thank you so much. Politeness. Are you Xiao Hei?" Wong Siki sat back at the table panting. Wong Winya smiled and said, "I saw in the group that the 5th sister is coming back." Wong Siki was a little surprised. She hadn't seen the 5th sister for a year. The 5th sister was doing well in the entertainment industry, winning many awards and being selected as the most popular actress. Wong Siki opened the sister group and saw 99+ messages. She sighed. Alas, the 5th sister has paid a lot to make time. Wong Winya responded, "Well, I have contacted the 2nd sister, and a warrior will come soon." In the back garden, Xiao Hei swallowed a chi-absorbing pill and continued to sleep soundly. Wong Gai had a good meal. His fur was snow white, his belly was round like a snowball, and spiritual energy entered his body with every breath. On the other side, Xiaoko took a small sword and practiced basic sword moves, stabbing, chopping, picking, tapping, sweeping, repeated hundreds of times, purely relying on physical practice. After a morning, He swung thousands of swords. His face was full of sweat, his wrists were sore, but his eyes were firm. After that, he put away the sword and urged the spiritual energy in the pavilion to recover from fatigue. Looking at the time, it was almost time for lunch, so he picked up the cultivating Xiaohei and went back to the villa. Xiao Ke said to himself, I haven't seen Brother Xiao Lu for a long time. Are you lazy again? Since the fourth sister went home, Xiao Lu seemed to have disappeared from the Wong family. At this moment, Xiao Lu, who was thousands of miles away in the barracks, was holding a steamed bun, looking in the direction of the magic city, with tears in his eyes. Family, who understands, I don't want to stay in this broken place for a second. Xiao Ke returned to the villa and saw his two sisters playing chess in the hall. His seventh sister did not go to the company. He put Xiaohei back in the corner and went upstairs to take a shower. After going downstairs, he walked confidently to the chessboard and challenged his sister by slapping the table. Sister, you promised me yesterday that I could go to elementary school if I could solve the first grade questions. The two nodded and asked the servant to print 2 first-grade test papers. Soon, the Chinese and math test papers were ready, and the servant respectfully placed them on the table and left. Wong Siki put away the chessboard and asked her brother to sit in the middle, ready to watch him answer questions. She thought that even if he couldn't answer, he could find a private tutor to help him go directly to primary school. The first one was a math test paper. Xiao Ke glanced at it, and his mouth twitched. Questions such as, and counting the number of fruits. Xiao Ke felt insulted and almost tore up the test paper. Seeing that he didn't write, the two sisters thought he didn't know how to do it. Unexpectedly, Xiao Ke began to answer questions quickly. He finished the math paper in 2 minutes and immediately wrote on the Chinese paper. The sisters were surprised to see his neat song font, which was not in line with common sense. In fact, Xiao Ke had deliberately written sloppily. Otherwise, Wong Siki would find that his handwriting was similar to the calligraphy in the president's office. After finishing the 2 test papers, the sisters checked them one by one and were surprised to find that they had full marks in math and Chinese. They looked at Xiao Ke and his heart tightened. Then, they both gave their thumbs up and praised their brother for being awesome. Wong Wenyao smiled and said, Then you don't need to go to kindergarten and go directly to elementary school when school starts. Great, Xiao Ke jumped up with joy. After lunch, the 3 of them went shopping for clothes together. On the busy streets, 2 elegant goddesses brought their cute little boys, and the rate of turning heads was off the charts. Xiao Ke was happy at first, but regretted it after a round of shopping. The sisters were not tired from shopping. He looked at no less than 200 sets of clothes in the afternoon. He drank milk tea in depression, angrily, and his eyebrows were wrinkled into small twists. When the elder sister announced that the shopping was over, he was almost moved to tears. Then the 7th sister said to go to the amusement park, and he was in a low mood again, thinking that the amusement park was for children to play. The driver quickly brought the 3 of them to the amusement park. After getting off the car, Xiao Ke was shocked. This was not the trampoline and bubble ball he had imagined, but a huge roller coaster that was speeding along. There were bursts of exclamations, and the pirate ship, flying carousel, spaceship, and other amusement facilities were also crowded with people. Wong Siki pulled the dazed Xiao Ke into the park, and Wong Wenyao went to pay the entrance fee. Wong Wenyao asked, Which one do we play first? Wong Siki pointed to the pirate ship, but was worried that her brother would be scared, so she suggested playing the carousel. Xiao Ke patted his chest and said, Don't worry, I'm not afraid. I won't play the carousel. The 2 girls smiled at each other and took Xiao Ke to sit on the pirate ship. The staff fastened the seat belts for the 3 people, and their eyes stayed on Wong Siki's big white legs for a moment. Wong Siki warned coldly, If you want to die, keep watching. The staff hurriedly lowered their heads and slipped away. Wong Wenyao teased, Oh, my sister is so charming, unlike me. Wong Siki laughed and scolded, You get out too. The pirate ship started and began to swing up and down. Xiao Ke felt the sense of weightlessness and the push on his back. His childish shouts made the 2 sisters laugh. The pirate ship rose and fell more and more, and everyone cheered excitedly. Woohoo! I can't stand it. Oh, why can't I breathe? After getting off the pirate ship, Xiao Ke almost fainted and felt that it felt so good to be down to earth. Wong Siki and Wong Wenyao had no discomfort after playing on the pirate ship, but they still felt it was not exciting enough, so they pulled Xiao Ke to the roller coaster. Wong Wenyao joked, A man, you're not afraid of roller coasters, right? Her beautiful eyes were full of smiles. Xiao Ke made an okay gesture, thinking how could a man say no? The roller coaster can hold 12 people at a time. 3 people boarded the car with excited faces. However, most people in the car were nervous. At first, the roller coaster started, and the speed was extremely slow, so slow that an old lady could catch up with it while walking. The car slowly climbed along the track, and everyone went from disdain to nervousness. When it climbed to the top of the 50-meter high mountain and stopped, everyone looked down and felt dizzy. Wong Siki and Wong Wenya also looked a little panicked, holding Xiaoke's fat hands tightly. Don't be afraid, brother, it's okay. I don't know if this is to comfort Xiaoke or to comfort themselves. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the roller coaster dropped vertically. Everyone was howling like ghosts and wolves. Xiaoke felt the sisters' hands tightening, so he secretly passed a wisp of spiritual energy into their bodies. It turned out that when riding the roller coaster, he found that as long as the spiritual energy in his body was flowing, he would not feel the weightlessness. He deliberately dispersed the spiritual energy before just to add excitement. The two sisters felt the pressure suddenly reduced, and their breathing became smooth, but the others were in a mess and could not breathe. Several people almost fainted after getting off the car, except for Xiaoke and the other two. Everyone else fell to the ground with weak legs. One fat boy even vomited, and it would take a long time to recover. Afterwards, the three of them went to explore the haunted house. The NPC dressed up as a monster to scare them. Xiaoke was so nervous that he wanted to draw his sword and beat him. Then they went to ride the bungee jumping machine, which dropped vertically from an altitude of 88 meters. Wong Wenya felt sick and rested for a while. They played all the attractions in the amusement park in one afternoon. The three of them walked out of the amusement park happily. There was a lottery at the entrance, and all tourists on that day could participate. Wong Siki took Xiaoke to check it out. There were many people at the lottery. There was a big machine. The rule was to twist the machine to drop a prize egg, and the prize was written on the egg. Wong Wenya twisted it first, and with a click, the machine spit out a green, translucent prize egg. Through the eggshell, she saw the note, which turned out to be a consolation prize. She sighed helplessly, handed the egg to the staff, and in exchange she got a cartoon balloon, which made her laugh and cry. It was Wong Siki's turn to draw the lottery. She gently turned the machine and spit out a blue, translucent eggshell. Seeing that it was the first prize, she couldn't help but cheer. Wow, the first prize, haha. The fourth sister has such bad luck. She rolled her eyes at Wong Wenya and handed the eggshell to the staff in exchange for an electric rice cooker. Xiaoke thought the electric rice cooker exploded when she was refining the elixir before, and now there's a new one, which is great. The people around were envious and praised Wong Siki for her good luck. Then it was Xiaoke's turn. He was not tall enough, so Wong Wenya picked him up and turned the machine. Click! A golden translucent eggshell rolled down. Wong Wenya was curious about the beautiful color. Xiaoke picked it up and took a look. Wong Siki also came over. The words inside the eggshell were unusual. The final, grand prize? Wong Siki exclaimed, unable to believe that her brother was luckier than her. Xiaoke happily ran to the staff to exchange the prize. The staff saw how cute he was and their hearts melted. They took the eggshell and carefully checked it. They picked up the microphone and announced, "Dear tourists, the final grand prize winner of this issue is this cute kid." People nearby gathered around, and Xiaoke was instantly noticed by everyone and became shy. What a cute kid. He actually won a prize. Look at that little face. I really want to kiss and rub it. Little boy, do you like the red sack or the blue sack? Two staff members ran to get the prizes, and soon a mini motorcycle that was more than half a meter high and more than 1 meter long drove in. It looked brand new and had complete configurations. The host excitedly announced, "The grand prize this time is a Kawasaki motorcycle. Because the kid is young, we will give him a mini version instead." Xiaoke excitedly ran to check it out, got on the car, and felt the joy of riding. Onlookers took photos and posted them on WeChat Moments. The two sisters looked at their excited brother and smiled, thinking that this trip to the amusement park was worthwhile. With the help of the staff, the motorcycle and rice cooker were delivered to Wong's home. Wong Wenya rubbed Xiaoke's head and praised, "The chance of winning the grand prize is 1 in 10,000. Your brother's luck is so enviable." The three of them walked out of the amusement park. Xiaoke tied the cartoon balloon to the roof of the Maserati and returned to Wong's home in an interesting way. On the way, Wong Siki mentioned that the fifth sister would be home soon. Xiaoke was looking forward to it and asked, "What is the fifth sister doing outside? Is she busy?" Wong Siki explained, "The fifth sister is a big star and has made many movies." After returning home and having dinner, Xiaoke ran upstairs and locked the door. He didn't want to be disturbed by his sisters to practice. After swallowing the chi-gathering pill, he he slowly closed his eyes. Wong Winya came to turn the doorknob as usual, but found that the door was locked, so she had to go back to her room to rest. After a while, Wong Siki also came, but she couldn't open the door either, so she had to leave. In the next month, Xiao Ku went out to practice sword every morning, practiced with Xiao Hei in the back garden in the afternoon, and practiced skills and made pills in the room at night. During this period, he refined more than a dozen first-grade pills, and his skills became more and more proficient. He even successfully refined a first-grade high-level pill, Zhuyin pill. He originally thought that he would need to be in the late stage of qi refining to refine it, but he made rapid progress and succeeded ahead of schedule. At this time, his spiritual energy was full, and he could reach the late stage of qi refining at any time. Wang Siki still goes to work every day, working out early and returning late at night, and going home to spend time with her family. Wang Winya is much freer. After negotiating with Shanghai University, she stays at home with her younger brother, occasionally works out and studies, and pays attention to the dynamics of the International Education Center. Since Xiao Hei took the qi-absorbing pill, his size has expanded rapidly, from a small dog to the size of a small Tibetan Mastiff, with a dotted line on his forehead. Antlan even doubts whether it is an ordinary dog, as it grows too fast. Now Xiao Hei is snow white, with eyes full of hostility. Outsiders look scary, but in front of the Wong family, it is just a smart and domineering big dog. That day, Xiao Ke finished his meal, as usual, and excitedly returned to his room and locked the door. Today, he was going to reach the late stage of qi refining. He took out a Na Yuan Dan that he had just learned to refine. It was slightly larger than the Na Qi Dan, but its spiritual energy was 5 times that of an ordinary Na Qi Dan. After swallowing the Na Yuan Dan, he activated the Chaos Rome Tianju. The powerful spiritual energy was rioting in his body. He gritted his teeth and persisted, silently saying in his heart, "If I persist through today, I could be promoted to the late stage of qi refining." It was a dark night, and the Wong family manor was quiet. The servants were all asleep, and Xiao Hei was also sleeping soundly in the doghouse. I was in the room trying to reach the late stage of qi refining, which was much more difficult than breaking through the middle stage of qi refining. The clouds formed by the spiritual energy in my body could not shake the solid barrier for a long time. In the second half of the night, I tried countless times and was almost numb. I swallowed 4 Na Yuan Dan in succession. Just when I was about to run out of energy, a black spiritual energy suddenly appeared in my body, spinning uncontrollably in my dantian, and then shot towards the barrier like a sharp arrow, breaking a gap. I took the opportunity to control all the spiritual energy to rush over, and with a boom, I finally broke through to the late stage of qi refining. At that moment, a warm feeling spread throughout my body, and my bones felt numb, as if I was undergoing a transformation. My consciousness expanded to 100 meters, and my dantian expanded by about 10 times. I felt my body was full of energy. Then I continued to practice and consolidate my cultivation. The next morning, I opened my eyes and a stream of spiritual energy shot out, and dirt appeared on my body again. I cast a cleansing spell, walked to the mirror, and found that I had become more spiritual, like a fairy child, and my skin was whiter. I was worried that I had become more beautiful, but my sisters wanted to kiss and hug me again. I really wished I could change my appearance and become uglier. I went downstairs carefully, and when I saw that no one was around, I went to tease Xiao Hei and took him out of the villa. As soon as I left the house, my 4th sister called me and found out that my 7th sister would be back in the afternoon. I quickly took Xiao Hei to the back garden. When I got to the garden, I was so happy that I finally got rid of my sister. I took out my little sword to practice swordplay and used the falling star from the 7 swords of listening to the wind. The sword light shot into the sky, and the power shocked me. I also found that now flying flowers and leaves can hurt people, and a finger can penetrate a stone pillar. Xiao Hei was trembling with fear. I wanted to test the results of Xiao Hei's training, so I brought a 1,000-pound boulder for him to break. Xiao Hei bumped and scratched, and finally broke it. I think I need to strengthen his training. After finishing my practice and returning to the villa, my 4th sister was packing my school bag for me, saying that I would go to the primary school affiliated to Magic City University tomorrow. I was surprised to realize that time had passed so quickly, and I had been at home for a month. In the evening, my 7th sister brought back 2 bodyguards in the early stage of qi training sent by my 2nd sister, saying that they were specifically for my protection. But I felt that they would affect my practice, so I protested to my sister, but was rejected. At night, I tossed and turned in bed, unable to calm down. Thinking about the start of school tomorrow, I was extremely nervous. In addition, the bodyguards sent by my second sister were always following me, which seriously affected my practice. I was very distressed. An evil thought even flashed through my mind. Why not secretly get rid of them? But I quickly gave up the idea. After all, they were sent by my second sister. So how could I do it? I thought of ways to get rid of the bodyguards, but all failed. Forget it, practice. I muttered, calmed down, and practiced the exercises, drawing the nearby spiritual energy into my body, and spent the night like this. The next morning, I was the first one to go downstairs for breakfast. Aunt Lon prepared hot milk and bread with a smile. After a while, my two sisters also dressed up and came downstairs. After breakfast, a group of people were getting ready to go out. I looked back and saw a large group of bodyguards following behind. I was speechless and said to Sister Chi, "Sister Chi, I'm going to school. I can do it alone. Why do you need so many bodyguards?" Sister Chi pinched my cheek and said lovingly, "My child is going to school for the first time. What's wrong with us sending him off?" I couldn't persuade her, so I had to let them follow. There were so many people that they filled 5 cars. I had no choice but to carry my school bag and head to school, surrounded by my sisters. A Maserati Dream led the way, followed by a row of Cullinans. The convoy attracted a lot of attention along the way. Arriving at the Shanghai University affiliated primary school, the school officially opened today. The school has a good reputation and educational facilities, and there are a lot of people who sign up. Parents dropping off their children at the gate blocked the road, and there was noise everywhere. To prevent accidents, the traffic police blocked the intersection, and vehicles were not allowed to approach, so people had to walk. Our convoy arrived at the intersection and was stopped by the traffic police. After asking the traffic police what department they belonged to, Chijia made a phone call, and 1 minute later the traffic police received the order to let us go. The convoy approached the school gate and immediately attracted everyone's attention. Everyone was talking about it. I saw so many people through the car window and exclaimed, "Wow, so many people!" The school gate is very grand, worthy of being the best elementary school in Shanghai. Because there were too many people, the car stopped near the crowd. We got off the car. In front of us were my 2 sisters and my personal bodyguards, followed by 20 burly bodyguards in suits. The 7th sister was dissatisfied with the crowded environment and snorted. The 4th sister ordered the bodyguards to clear the way, and we followed behind and soon arrived at the school gate. After entering the school, the 4th sister said she was going to talk to the principal, and then she separated from us. My class was in grade 1, class 1, on the first floor of the teaching building with a good location. The 7th sister took me to the class, and we arrived early. There were only 2 students and parents in the class. I chose a seat in the middle of the 3rd row with a good view, and the other 2 students happened to be my desk mates. When their parents saw that we brought so many bodyguards, they greeted the 7th sister in awe, and the 7th sister smiled in response. After making the arrangements, Sister Chi was leaving. She told me to tell her if I was wronged and to pick me up at the gate after school. I nodded seriously and made an okay gesture. Sister Chi rubbed my head reluctantly and left with her bodyguards. When she left, she was still thinking about buying this school. Meanwhile, my 4th sister was drinking tea in the principal's office. She told the principal who she was and asked him to take good care of her. She also said that she came to Shanghai University as a nominal professor because of me. The principal immediately promised to do it. There were more and more students in the class, and many children were crying and didn't want to go to school, which made me upset. At this time, my deskmate Du Zimo took the initiative to greet me, and another deskmate Ding Aran also joined in, and we soon had a heated chat. Du Zimo was chubby, and when he smiled, you could see that he had a missing front tooth. Ding Aran was very cute, didn't talk much, and mostly listened to us. Soon the classroom was full of students, and they began to chat quietly. At this time, the head teacher, Mr. Liu, walked up to the podium, greeted everyone, and after explaining the school rules and regulations, asked us to go up to the stage and introduce ourselves according to the order of our seats. After the students in front introduced themselves, it was Du Zimo's turn. He was so shy that he clasped his hands and looked down at the ground. A student in the last row whispered that he was a sissy. I turned around and glanced at the boy, feeling very angry. Du Zimo walked off the stage with a red face, and then it was my turn to go up to the stage. "Hello, classmates. My name is Wong Xiaoka. I will be 6 soon. I hope to make friends with you all." After introducing myself, I returned to my seat. There was no class in the morning of the first day of school. It was mainly for getting to know each other and distributing textbooks. Teacher Lu also named me as the class monitor, saying that I have a calm personality and a talent for management. I guess another reason is that I look cute. At noon, Du Zimo and I went to eat in the cafeteria of Shanghai Elementary School. I thought I had a big appetite, but he ate 3 plates of rice in one go. No wonder he was so fat. After dinner, we walked around the school. Suddenly, I felt the breath of the bodyguard with my spiritual sense. I looked back and saw the bodyguard sent by my second sister staring at me in security uniforms not far away. Alas, this is the so-called intimate protection. I will just pretend I didn't see it. We went to the supermarket and bought a big bag of snacks. I took out my phone to pay. Du Zimo and the supermarket owner were shocked. After all, mobile phones are not allowed in school. But my sister asked me to bring it with me so I could keep in touch at any time. It was right to listen to my sister. When I walked out of the supermarket, I ate snacks in big mouthfuls. My sister would not let me eat these at home. Du Zimo suddenly had to pee, so we ran to the toilet. There was a group of 6th graders smoking in the public toilet. As soon as I entered, I smelled the pungent smell of cigarettes and frowned in disgust. A yellow-haired boy looked at me and saw that I was unhappy with his eyes, so he yelled at me, "Hey, little brat, what are you looking at? Are you dissatisfied?" I ignored him and thought he was just barking. The yellow-haired boy threw away his cigarette, but seeing that I ignored him, he got angry and blocked my way. Other teenagers also surrounded him. Du Zimo was almost scared to tears. I said coldly, "Count to 3 and get out of my sight." 3. The yellow-haired boy laughed, thinking it was funny to be threatened by a little brat. 2. He also mocked. 1. Quick, quick, I want to see how you can make me disappear. 1. I quickly grabbed his collar, his feet off the ground, and I threw him, and he flew into the urinal, smelling fishy. Ouch, the yellow-haired boy roared. Catch this little brat and beat him to death. 5 or 6 teenagers reached out to me. A minute later, Du Zimo and I walked out of the toilet and returned to the classroom. Several teenagers were wailing in the toilet, and Huang Mao was smelly and didn't know how to get out. He growled angrily, "Wait, little brat. You'll see what happens after school." Soon, the news spread among the seniors that Zhang Hao, a 6th-grade gangster, was beaten by a first-year freshman. There were all kinds of exaggerated rumors. I was already in class, but the content was too simple and the addition and subtraction were taught too slowly. I fell asleep in Chinese class. The Chinese teacher was so angry that his chest rose and fell, and he looked at me with a look of disappointment. I spent the whole afternoon in a dream, and finally school was over. Dingaran woke me up and said that school was over. I was sleepy, wiped my saliva, yawned, picked up my school bag, and walked to the school gate. The 2 bodyguards behind me also changed into black suits and followed from a distance. After I left the school gate, a group of Ghost Fire teenagers stopped me. The leader was a fat guy, and next to him was the yellow-haired Zhang Hao whom I had beaten up. The fat guy didn't believe that I had beaten Zhang Hao, but Zhang Hao said it was true and asked the fat guy for help, saying that he would give him all his pocket money this week. After thinking about it, the fat guy led 7 or 8 junior high school students to surround me. The fat guy said righteously, "We have a rule that we don't beat the elderly and children, but if you make me lose face, don't blame me." After saying that, he waved his hand, and the 2 junior high school students punched me. In an instant, 2 bodyguards appeared behind me. Bang! Bang! 2 times, the 2 junior high school students were kicked and flew away. They rolled on the ground for several circles, hunched over and wailing like shrimps. The fat man's face changed drastically. Seeing the muscular bodyguards who were about 1.9 meters tall, the group of junior high school students looked like little chickens in front of them. Their fierce eyes were like those of demons. The fat man quickly bowed 90 degrees to apologize, saying that Zhang Hao had asked him to come. After that, he rode on the tram and ran away. Zhang Hao was stunned. He was stared at by the bodyguards. He knelt down with a bang and kept apologizing to me. He said he would never do it again and begged for forgiveness. I walked up to him and whispered, "Be a good kid in the future. Don't smoke or fight." Then I left with the bodyguards. This scene stunned the other students, and they thought I was awesome. On the way, I looked at the 2 bodyguards. My 7th sister said that my 2nd sister was a soldier, so they should be too. I had never seen them talk to each other, so I turned around and asked, "Uncle, who are you to my 2nd sister?" The bodyguard replied respectfully, "The young master's sister is our general, and we are subordinates." "General?" I was shocked again. My sisters are so powerful, can I lie flat? I shook my head and asked again, "What are the surnames of the 2 uncles?" One of them said, "My surname is Fu, And this is my younger brother. I nodded and asked. Then Uncle Fu, what is your younger brother's surname? Uncle Fu was speechless for a moment. At this time, I glanced at my seventh sister's car on the side of the road. Chapter 32. The fourth sister smiled gently, picked me up, and asked about my schooling. I happily said it was good, and then I grumbled that the first grade was too easy and wanted to go to the sixth grade. The fourth sister thought that the content was shallow at the beginning of the school year, and I was just bored, so she promised me that I could skip a grade if I got full marks in the midterm exam. I cheered that the fourth sister was the best, and when asked who was better between her and the seventh sister, I smiled and said that they were both good. Then we drove back to the manor. While I got home, I turned on the TV and tried to change the channel, but found that all the channels were broadcasting the same news. Shanghai will hold a luxurious birthday party on October 9th. A mysterious rich man will invest 1 billion yuan. There will be a fireworks show, and a lottery will be held to select 1,000 children and no more than 3 family members who will be born on that day. The way to participate is to scan the code to participate in the lottery. Coincidentally, that day was my birthday, so I quickly scanned the code and filled in the information. At this time, my seventh sister came back and saw the October 9th birthday celebration on my phone and went to discuss business with my fourth sister. Soon, I received the notification of winning the prize, and I jumped up with excitement. I went to Weibo and saw that this event had become the #1 hot search, and everyone was talking about it in the comment area. During dinner, I happily told my sisters that I won the prize and could go to the banquet together, but they were not surprised. After dinner, I returned to my room. I had broken through to the late stage of chi refining and planned to refine a spiritual weapon. I easily lifted the 300 gene alchemy furnace with one hand, put in the black gold, and followed the refining process to control the fire array to melt the ore, remove impurities, inject spiritual energy, control the temperature to solidify, and shape the spiritual energy. After a long time, I finally refined a flying sword in the morning of the next day. There was still a small piece of black gold spiritual iron left, which I planned to make a storage ring for my sister. In the last step, I sacrificed my blood to the sword, and the sword exploded with a strong vibration. There was a loud bang, like a grenade exploding. Aunt Lon and the servants downstairs, and the seventh sister upstairs, and the fourth sister who was sleeping were all alarmed, and they all gathered at the door of my room. The seventh sister asked Aunt Lon about the situation, and Aunt Lon went to get the spare key. The fourth sister came downstairs in a daze, misunderstood that I exploded, and woke up after learning that it was the explosion in the room. After the door opened, the smoke was choking. Everyone saw me covered in black ash and with my hair standing up. I embarrassedly said that the alchemy furnace had exploded. Everyone remembered the last time the rice cooker exploded. Sister 7 scolded me, and Sister 4 laughed at me for having a talent for making bombs after hearing Aunt Lan's explanation. I was so embarrassed that I quickly ran to take a shower. It was really embarrassing. In the bathroom, I took a hot bath. Although the alchemy furnace exploded, I didn't show sadness on the surface, but my heart was bleeding. The alchemy furnace was a treasure I had worked so hard to get, and it was gone just like that. I buried my head in the bathtub sadly, gurgling and spitting bubbles. After taking a shower, I didn't rush out. I just finished refining the flying sword, and I was afraid that my sister would find it, so I wanted to hide it. As a result, before I put it into the storage ring, it went straight into my sea of consciousness and floated in the air. With a thought, the flying sword appeared in front of me out of thin air. The sword is about 3 feet long, with a black and gold sword body, inlaid with golden patterns, and the hilt is made of brass alloy. It is spiritual and mysterious, just like a fairy sword wandering in the world. I nodded and thought the sword was very domineering. I was very satisfied, so I said to it, "You are made of Wujin Lingtai. The color is black and gold, so you'll be called Xiaobai from now on." The flying sword bent the sword body in protest with dissatisfaction and engraved the word Jinwu in the air. I had no choice but to obey it and silently complained in my heart, "Little broken sword, I really don't know how to appreciate it." Before I could continue studying the flying sword, Aunt Lon urged me to eat and go to school. I put away the golden crow, went downstairs to eat breakfast, and took my fourth sister Wong, Wenya's car, to go to school. On the second day of school, many parents sent their children to school. I got off the car, said goodbye to my fourth sister with my school bag on my back, and ran to school. Uncle Fu also put on his security uniform and started his day of protection work. On the way home, my fourth sister received a message from my seventh sister, saying that she would pick me up in the evening. My fourth sister ignored it, anyway, Whoever picked me up would be the one. When I got back to class, I came early, put my school bag in the drawer, and lay down to sleep. The students around me were studying hard, but I was the only one who didn't fit in. The bell rang, and the Chinese teacher came in. He was a young male teacher who looked gentle and refined. When the teacher saw me sleeping soundly, he was so angry that he shouted loudly, "Wong Xiaoka, get up." The voice was quite loud, but I didn't respond. Du Zimo patted my thigh and whispered, "Hey, wake up. The Chinese teacher is calling you." I stood up in a daze and asked the teacher what was wrong under the surprised eyes of everyone. The teacher frowned. He hated students who were lazy and had no ambition. He thought I was one of them, so he said coldly, "Recite the ancient poems you learned yesterday once. If you can't recite them, copy them 10 times. He also smiled evilly, thinking that he could deal with me. I yawned, recited quiet night thoughts skillfully and quickly, and also talked about the translation and writing background. The classmates were stunned, and the teacher was also startled, waving his hand for me to sit down. I was about to go out to buy snacks after class, and a group of classmates gathered at the door. I used my spiritual sense to explore and found Gu Qinyue. I yelled behind her, scared her to scream, and I laughed beside her. I knew she was in the 2nd grade, but I didn't expect she was also in the Shanghai affiliated primary school. She was a little surprised when she heard from her father yesterday that I went to school here. After all, I said before that I was going to kindergarten. We chatted for a while, and then she left, followed by a group of children. I realized that she had so many little followers, but I didn't have any. After buying snacks and returning to class, my thoughts drifted away in class, thinking about going to the library to borrow books to relieve boredom. I had already learned the 1st grade knowledge. After lunch at noon, I took Du Zimo to the library. The library is very large, occupying an entire building. The 1st floor is illustrations and storybooks. The higher the level, the higher the variety and quality of the books. The administrator grandfather was sitting at the counter. When he saw us, he asked what books we wanted to read, and he could help find them. I shook my head and said I would find them myself, and then we ran to the 4th floor. Grandpa smiled and said that children are naughty and thought we couldn't understand the books on the 4th floor. I picked out 6 thick books, each of which was 8 centimeters high. Du Zimo held the Siku Quan Shu and muttered, "I know all the words. How can I not understand it?" We went downstairs, and I put the book at the front desk. Grandpa looked at the book with a puzzled look on his face. 5 years of simulation and 3 years of college entrance examination. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, Life Maxims. "Child, you can't understand it. Go get the storybook next to you." He also pointed to the bookshelf on the 1st floor, probably complaining in his heart that 1st grade children couldn't understand these. I shook my head stubbornly and insisted on having the books. Finally, we returned to the classroom with the books. I spent the whole afternoon studying the borrowed books, and my knowledge accumulated more and more. Du Zimo felt that I could only turn a page in 2 seconds, and I couldn't concentrate at all. In the last self-study class, there was no teacher, and the class was very noisy. A group of boys in the back were laughing and playing. I was upset, so I slammed the table and shouted in a baby voice, "Get out if you make noise again." I stood up and scanned the whole class. The deterrent power burst out, and the class was instantly quiet. After the head teacher came, she saw the students who were studying quietly, praised them, and then announced that there would be a day off because there was an event in Magic City on October 9th. The students were very happy. After that, the head teacher called me out alone. In the office, she kindly asked me to sit down and said that I could tell her any questions and requests. If I was bullied, she would help me vent my anger, and if I felt uncomfortable, I could call to ask for leave. When I listened, I thought of my 4th sister at the first time and suspected that my 4th sister had threatened the teacher. But the teacher also cared about me, so I decided to cooperate with her more. School was over as soon as I came out of the office. I went back to class excitedly, put on my school bag, and walked out. Uncle Fu and the others followed me slowly and deliberately avoided other people's sight. When I arrived at the school gate, many students gathered together. I saw my 7th sister Wong Siki leaning against the front of the Maserati in a cool manner, and my 4th sister Wong Wenya, who had a hot body and elegant temperament, wore glasses and leaned lazily against the door of the Rolls-Royce, scanning the crowd. Many boys had stars in their eyes and wanted to touch the sports car. Suddenly, the 2 sisters shouted at the same time, "Brother, come to your sister. Little brother, come to your sister." At the school gate, my face was burning and I was extremely shy. Why did my 4th and 7th sisters block the car here? It turned out that my 7th sister Wong Siki drove to pick me up after school, But I didn't expect that my fourth sister Wong Wenya also came and deliberately leaned towards the gate. My seventh sister was not to be outdone and stepped on the accelerator to overtake my fourth sister. The two overtook each other and got closer and closer to the school gate. The security guard tried to stop them, but was shouted back by them. Seeing that they were driving luxury cars, the security guard had no choice but to give in. In the end, the two cars almost drove into the school before they stopped. I coughed twice and hesitated in front of the two sisters. If I chose one, the other would definitely be sad. What should I do? Seeing this, the fourth sister called me again. Brother, didn't you say that the fourth sister is the best? Come to the fourth sister. I hesitated and walked towards the fourth sister. The seventh sister stamped her feet angrily and said to me, Brother, think about who will take you home. It's the seventh sister. The fourth sister has sent you many times. Why won't you let the seventh sister take you once? As she said this, the seventh sister looked pitiful and her eyes were full of tears. The boys next to her couldn't stand it and thought I was heartless. The seventh sister continued, Forget it, brother doesn't like the seventh sister. You go find her. I will go home alone. My heart tightened, and I turned around and walked to the seventh sister, pulling her clothes and acting coquettishly. I like the seventh sister. Don't be sad, seventh sister. I will go with you. Then I turned around and told the fourth sister that I was sorry to take the seventh sister's car home today. When I got in the car, the seventh sister made a mocking expression to the fourth sister, stepped on the accelerator, and the sports car roared away. The fourth sister waved her hands in anger, thinking that the seventh sister was deceiving her sympathy, and secretly wanted to learn more of this trick. Then, the fourth sister also drove away in a Rolls-Royce. The students watching were envious, wondering why they didn't have such a beautiful sister with a luxury car. Opposite the school, two mysterious people were watching this scene in a car, and then the car slowly drove away to the west. Seventh sister drove a Maserati Dream on the street. In the city of Shanghai with many luxury cars, this car worth tens of millions still attracted many passersby. I sat in the passenger seat. Usually the bodyguard drove the car. This time, seventh sister came to pick me up in person, which made me very happy. We talked and laughed along the way. I even kissed her, which made seventh sister very happy. Thinking of fourth sister going home alone, she was even happier. Back at the manor, I wanted to watch TV, but it was still playing that news on loop. I couldn't help but complain. I felt like the TV was controlled and could only play this one. In fact, a mysterious rich man spent $50 million to buy out all the TV channels in Shanghai, just to play this news on loop. The TV station's complaint phone was bombarded, but the boss was unmoved. At the same time, all media companies in Shanghai received large orders to push the October 9th birthday party to the top of the hot searches. Hundreds of media companies worked overtime overnight. This was the first cooperation in the Shanghai media industry. Not only that, cake shop chefs, costume designers, makeup artists, sound effects designers, etc. in the city received high-priced invitations to participate in the work related to the October 9th banquet, with a daily salary of $10,000 per person. All industries were shocked and curious about who this rich man who bought out people from multiple industries was. This layout alone was conservatively estimated to be $500 million. In the villa, I was a little depressed because I couldn't watch TV. Seeing Xiao Hei sleeping soundly, I pulled him to the backyard. The golden crow I refined this morning hadn't been tested yet, so it was a good opportunity to try it now. Xiao Hei was reluctant, and it was useless to use the foot brake because the power difference was too great. Arriving at the back garden, I released my spiritual sense to cover a 100-meter radius. Although it consumed a lot of energy, it was enough to prevent being seen. With a thought, the golden crow appeared in front of me, and the sword body was shining with golden light. I excitedly grasped the flying sword, and in an instant, a momentum of contempt for the world appeared and disappeared. Xiao Hei lay on the ground and whimpered. It felt the destructive breath on the sword. So powerful. The golden crow is so handsome. I praised and stroked the sword body with satisfaction. The sword body has its own devouring power, but it makes me feel familiar. I held the golden crow tightly and tried to activate the sword technique. Instantly, the garden was blown by a strong wind, and my momentum was rising steadily. After a few seconds, the momentum reached its peak, and the golden crow was emitting a dark golden light. The first sword of the listening to the wind sword technique, falling stars. I shouted and slashed at the sky with a sword as fast as lightning. The sword mark flew into the sky and exploded. Aunt Lon heard the movement and looked out the window. Who was setting off fireworks in broad daylight? How strange. After that, she continued to wipe the blue and white porcelain. I hugged the golden crow in surprise. This power was much stronger than yesterday, and the golden crow could cut iron like mud and cut stone like tofu. Finally, I want to try the most practical skill of the flying sword, flying. I control the flying sword with my mind, and it feels amazing. It can fly as I want and move smoothly. I retracted the golden crow and let it float at the height of my feet. I stood on it carefully, feeling excited. After standing firmly, I controlled the flying sword to fly slowly and get familiar with the feeling of flying. Wow, Xiaohei, look, I can fly. I was no longer afraid, and the speed and height I controlled became faster and faster. Swoosh! I stood on the golden crow and soared freely, enjoying the pleasure of flying, and from time to time I rotated, dived, and flew in fancy ways. Aunt Lon heard my laughter and put down the tea, set in confusion. I rode on the golden crow and flew up to the clouds, overlooking half of the magic city, and felt the feeling of seeing all the mountains as small. I leaned down and rushed to the center of the magic city. It was evening, and the sky over Shanghai's commercial street was filled with clouds of fire. People who had just gotten off work were walking on the street, discussing dinner and entertainment. A little girl pointed to the sky and shouted excitedly, "Mom, look, there's a plane in the sky." The mother smiled and looked over, and saw a small black dot flying at high speed in the sky, which did not look like an airplane. After being reminded, everyone looked up at the sky. Some people speculated that it was a flying bird, but were immediately denied by an old bird researcher, saying that the height was at least 1,000 meters, and birds could not fly so fast. Some people took photos with their mobile phones and cameras. After zooming in, the photos were blurred, and the outline did not look like a bird, but more like a person. Hurry up, record a video. There will be explosive information tomorrow. A reporter urged his colleagues to capture the photo, shouting excitedly, "Yes, this little black dot is me." After circling over the magic city, I returned to the manor. After landing, I took back the golden crow with a smile. This intermediate spiritual weapon is much faster than a car. Master has a legendary immortal weapon in his memory. I am curious about what the immortal weapon looks like and whether it is more powerful. Xiaohei saw me coming back and happily circled around me. It was getting late, and Xiaohei and I walked back to the villa. After a simple dinner, I went back to my room. My fourth sister reminded me to take a shower, and I replied perfunctorily, "Okay," and jumped onto the bed. Now that I had spiritual energy to protect my body, I didn't need to take a shower. After a simple cleanup, I began to concentrate on my cultivation. The next morning, Wong family manor received a special package. In the morning, Xiaoke washed up and went downstairs to eat. Today seemed normal, but there was a square package on the dining table. Aunt Lon said that this was a courier that she picked up at the door early in the morning. The recipient was written as "Young Master," so she moved it to the villa and put it on the table. The two sisters ate breakfast elegantly without opening the package, obviously waiting for Xiaoke. After listening to Annie Lon, Xiaoke guessed that this was an invitation to a birthday party, so he opened it without even eating. Inside the package, a gorgeous golden wooden box lay quietly. After opening the wooden box, a golden envelope appeared, the invitation to the party, along with a diamond bracelet, the event address, and notes. Wong Siki picked up the diamond bracelet and was impressed by how beautiful it was. The bracelet was silver white and inlaid with 52 blue diamonds. Xiao could carefully put the invitation in the room and gave the bracelet to Annie Lon for safekeeping. After dinner, Xiao Ko prepared to go to school. When Aunt Lon was packing her school bag, she felt that it was particularly heavy today, so she unzipped it and took out several thick books, such as 5 years of college entrance examination and 3 years of simulation, English level 6 vocabulary, etc. She was puzzled and ran to tell Wang Wenya, who was also surprised, wondering if her brother had any secrets. Today is Friday, and tomorrow will be the holiday. The students are very happy. At the school gate, Wong Siki sent Xiao Ku to school and then rushed to the company. Xiao Ku returned to the class, and his classmates were enthusiastically discussing the news of the birthday party on TV. He leaned in to listen. Several little boys in the back row looked at him with disgust. Only girls were willing to communicate with him, probably because they thought he was too fierce to everyone. Xiao Ku didn't care. At such a young age, he was very open-minded. I heard that my cousin applied, but was not selected. Did anyone in our elementary school receive an invitation? I know Su Junlin from the 3rd grade received one, and he showed it to my sister. TSK, We could go watch the fireworks show and eat cake for free. The classmates talked one after another, and Xiaoku realized that they were talking about the birthday party invitation. It turned out that a student in the 3rd grade had also received one. Xiaoku returned to his seat. Du Zimo and Ding Aran were discussing in a low voice. He squeezed in between them and took out the English level 6 vocabulary from his school bag. Du Zimo asked him to chat. Xiaoku, who do you think is hosting the birthday party for whom? Xiaoku didn't know. He only knew that he could eat cake for free and there were special rewards. He guessed that it might be a rich man hosting it for his daughter and invited Du Zimo and Ding Aran to go together. Du Zimo readily agreed, as he loved sweets. Xiaoku then quietly told the two, "Actually, I got an invitation to the birthday party, and I can get a gift." The two exclaimed, as the TV said there were only 1,000 invitations in the entire Magic City, and it was difficult to get one. Ding still suspected Xiaoku and asked him to produce evidence. Xiaoku took out his phone and opened the winning information. The two exclaimed again, attracting the attention of classmates. Everyone was surprised to see Xiaoku holding his phone, because mobile phones were not allowed in school. The naughty boys in the back row discussed telling the teacher that Xiaoku's cultivation had improved and his 6 senses were sharp, and he heard these words clearly. Everyone gathered around, looking at the winning information with envy, and asked Xiaoku to take them there. Xiaoku refused proudly. He wanted to take his 2 sisters with him, but there was only 1 spot left, so he decided to take his good friend Du Zimo. The students were dissatisfied and complained, and then Teacher Lu walked into the classroom. Seeing the teacher, the students hurried back to their seats. Teacher Lu was about to speak when Xiaohu in the back row raised his hand and reported, "Teacher, we saw Wong Xiaoka taking the phone, and the whole class can testify." Xiaoka was helpless as he was being reported. The classmates echoed and said they saw it. Teacher Lu was in a dilemma because Xiaoku was the one the principal asked to give special care to, but the school had regulations. After thinking about it, Teacher Lu gently told Xiaoku not to play with his phone during class, otherwise he would be punished to copy ancient poems. The classmates were shocked. This was different from the school rules. Teacher Lu would definitely rebuke if he heard it. The school rules were set by the principal and the board of directors. Would the principal punish Xiaoku? This is the way of the world. Xiaoku nodded and replied sweetly, "I know." Soon the morning classes were over, and it was time for lunch. Before Xiaoku even left the house, a group of 3rd grade students gathered at the 1st grade door, and more than a dozen of them looked at the classroom with contempt. As expected, Xiaoku and Du Zimo were stopped when they walked out of the classroom. The tall and thin Wong Tianhao put his arm around Xiaoku and said he had something to discuss. Xiaoku frowned, slapped his hand away, and said coldly that she didn't want to discuss it. When the 1st-year students saw Xiaoku being stopped by the seniors, they quickly informed each other. Wong Tianhao was the leader of the 3rd-year class. He was a scoundrel. Seeing that Xiaoku didn't listen, he threatened, "If you have the guts, come to the toilet and see if I will beat you up." He was about to leave, but Xiaoku took the initiative to respond. "Okay, I'll go now." Everyone was surprised and wondered if he was stupid. It was rare for someone to take the initiative to ask for a beating. So, a group of people went to the toilet in a mighty manner. Uncle Fu saw from a distance and sighed that the young master had a group of followers so quickly. He thought back to when he was in junior high school. He only had a dozen younger brothers. That lineup was very impressive in the eyes of others. Du Zimo had seen Xiaoku take action, so he was not too worried and followed the crowd to the toilet. Xiaohu also pulled his friends to follow. The children loved to watch the fun, and the team gradually expanded from a dozen people to 80 or 90 people. A group of people rushed into the toilet and filled it up, leaving only about 10 square meters of open space. Xiaoku, Du Zimo, and a dozen 3rd graders stood on it. "The person who beat you up is called Wong Tianhao. Remember this." Wong Tianhao was about to kick Xiaoku when he was interrupted by a curse. "What a bullshit, Tianhao. Dare you touch my boss?" In the corner of the toilet, there was a sudden angry shout, and everyone's eyes were drawn over. The person who spoke was Zhang Hao, a gangster in the 6th grade. In an instant, the toilet became noisy. "Isn't that Zhang Hao from the 6th grade?" "Yes, I heard that he was very good at calling people. Last time he beat another 6th grader to death. He was very busy in our school, and there were dozens of them." It turned out that Zhang Hao had just smoked in the corner with a group of people, but a group of people suddenly rushed into the toilet. After a while, he realized that it was the 3rd grader who was about to beat the child that made him feel scared. He felt that this was a good opportunity to flatter, and how could he not accept the favors that came to the door? Zhang Hao put his hand in his pocket, bounced a cigarette butt, and walked over with arrogant and confident steps. Wong Tianhao naturally heard of Zhang Hao's name. but the current situation made him confused. Zhang Hao led 7 or 8 teenagers to stand in front of Wong Tianhao and stare at him. The 6th graders were generally a head taller than the 3rd graders, and Wong Tianhao felt scared when Zhang Hao stared at him. He was used to bullying others, but in front of Zhang Hao, he could only be bullied. Zhang Hao rubbed his belly and asked arrogantly, "What do you want to do? Do you want to beat up my elder brother?" Huh, huh, huh. Everyone was confused. Zhang Hao actually said that this kid is his elder brother. Wong Tianhao smiled tremblingly and apologized. "Brother Hao, are you mistaken? I want to beat this kid, no one else." Before he finished speaking, Zhang Hao slapped him in the face with a slap. "Bah, he is my Zhang Hao's elder brother. You still want to beat him? I think you are itching for trouble." After saying that, he slapped him a few more times. The onlookers were shocked. This plot development was too weird. Wong Tianhao's eyes were red with grievance. It was too embarrassing to be slapped in the face in front of so many people. After teaching him a lesson, Zhang Hao asked why he was bothering his elder brother. Wong Tianhao said with a sad face that he wanted to ask Xiaoke for an invitation to his birthday party. After learning the reason, Zhang Hao kicked him a few more times and cursed. "You are still called Wong Tianhao, but my name is Zhang Hao. Remember this, come to me if you have any problems. Get lost." Wong Tianhao covered his swollen face and walked away dejectedly with a group of people. Zhang Hao turned around and greeted Xiaoke with a smile, telling Xiaoke to call him if he had anything. Xiaoke nodded with satisfaction and walked out with Du Zimo. When they were about to leave, Xiaoke turned around and reminded him, "Don't smoke in the future, the smell is too bad." Zhang Hao nodded quickly. After Xiaoke and the other 2 left, everyone in the toilet breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone thought this was too abnormal. Why would Zhang Hao be afraid of a 1st grade kid? They had to go and find out. There must be something fishy going on. The crowd dispersed and walked out of the toilet one after another. Before long, 3 pieces of news spread quickly throughout the school. The first was that freshman Wong Xiaoke beat up Wong Tianhao and Zhang Hao. The second is that Wong Xiaoke has 2 wealthy and beautiful sisters who drive sports cars and picked him up from school yesterday. The third is that Wong Xiaoke actually got an invitation to a birthday party on October 9th. From then on, Wong Xiaoke became a celebrity in the Shanghai elementary school. Many senior girls came to see him. Xiaoke's cute appearance made these girls crazy, and they always came to play with him. This made Xiaoke very worried, and he regretted causing all these troubles. In the afternoon, Xiaoke stayed in the classroom to study. As soon as he went out, senior students would come and chat and play with him, and even a sophomore student handed him a love letter. After school was over, Xiaoke rushed to the school gate like a flying bird, determined to get rid of the entanglement of the senior students. Arriving at the gate of the elementary school, Xiaoke looked left and right, but didn't see his 2 sisters. He couldn't help but wonder, did my sisters forget me? He stood alone on the side of the road with his small school bag on his back, at a loss for a moment. Did he really have to force himself to summon the golden crow to fly home? Ding gadi. At this time, a black Maybach drove towards him. The car stopped on the side of the road, and a man wearing sunglasses got out of the car. Xiaoke looked at him and confirmed that he didn't know him. He became alert in his heart, wondering why this man came to him. The man walked up to Xiaoke with a gentle smile on his face and squatted down. "Your name is Wong Xiaoke, right?" Xiaoke nodded and looked at him in confusion. "Your sister has something to do today and can't come, so let me take you to dinner." Xiaoke was full of suspicion. In class today, the teacher also said that there are many human traffickers recently, and we should be careful. So he took a step back and called his sister. After hanging up the phone, he believed the man in front of him. After the 2 got in the car, Xiaoke found that there was another woman wearing sunglasses in the car. Although she deliberately covered her face, Xiaoke's spiritual sense revealed her delicate features. It must be said that in terms of appearance alone, she was more beautiful than her 2 sisters. After getting in the car, Xiaoke started chatting with the man. "Why didn't my sisters come to pick me up today?" The man drove the car and replied with his head turned sideways. "Your sisters are busy today, so let me take you to dinner and then send you home after dinner." Oh. Sitting in a stranger's car, Xiaoke felt a little uncomfortable and kept looking out the window. Arriving at the restaurant, the group got out of the car and walked in. This is a well-known barbecue restaurant, which is almost always full every Friday to Sunday. The man came to the front desk, opened a private room, and asked the woman to take Xiaoke in first and choose the food by herself. After entering the private room, Xiaoke sat obediently on the bench with his legs dangling in the air. The woman looked at him quietly. Xiaoke couldn't help asking, "Beautiful sister, you are so beautiful. Why do you cover your face?" This made the woman's heart tremble, and she explained a little embarrassedly that she was used to it. Her voice was as clear and sweet as an aureole, and people would think of a sweet young girl as soon as they heard it. The woman took the initiative to chat with Xiaoku, asking him how his sister found him, what his life was like before, and whether he was happy. Xiaoku did not show any sadness, but just told the past calmly. From being abandoned by her parents, to being taken in by her grandfather, to her grandfather's death, how she had to rely on begging to fill her stomach, living under a dirty bridge, covered with a worn-out quilt discarded by others. After listening to Xiaoku's story, the woman's tears slid down her sunglasses. She felt so distressed. Xiaoku seemed to be telling a story or reminiscing. He said to the woman in a baby voice, "Beautiful sister, why are you crying? Did the story I told you make you sad? Don't be unhappy. My two sisters love me very much now. I'm very happy." The woman rubbed Xiaoku's hair and whispered that she was going to the bathroom. When she arrived at the bathroom, Wong Xinru took off her sunglasses, and her pretty face was soaked with tears. She was the top Chinese actress, Wong Xinru, and Xiaoku's sister, the fifth child in the family. She missed her brother, and she was even more distressed when she learned about his tragic experience. After calming down, she put on her sunglasses again and returned to the private room. At this time, the table was filled with skewers, drinks, and pots of fish soup and pork rib soup. The three of them were eating happily, and Wang Xinru kept putting food on her brother's plate. Xiaoku complained that he was almost being fed like a pig, which made the two laugh. After dinner, the man drove Xiaoku back to Wang's manor. Xiaoku waved goodbye to the two happily and ran back home. After he left, the two slowly took off their sunglasses. The man asked respectfully, "Miss, you really don't plan to go home and meet him now?" Wang Xinru shook her head. "It's not the right time yet. I will meet him on my brother's birthday. My brother has suffered for 5 years. This is his first birthday at home. I want the whole world to know that Wang Xiaoka is my brother. Even the Wong family in Kyoto will have to consider my anger." Wang Xinru said coldly. Her sweet appearance concealed her character that should not be underestimated. Others were wary of the Jingdu Wong family, but she didn't take it seriously. The man sighed and reminded, "I heard that Kyoto has recently sent warriors to the Magic City. Should we?" Wang Xinru bit her lip lightly. "So what if they are warriors? They have them, and we have them too. If you dare to touch my brother, just wait and see." The car started slowly and gradually disappeared in the afterglow of the sunset. Chapter 37. Dad's News, The Real Alchemy Furnace. Royal Manor. When Xiaoku returned home, he found that the atmosphere in the whole house was a little subtle. As soon as he walked into the villa hall, a group of people looked at him. Among them are the two sisters and several strong-willed uncles. Uncle Gu Biao was also among them, but everyone looked unhappy.